Good evening, everybody. Noob Hammer, Rick here, coming at you with Evan Stump. Evan is busy hobbying right now, and but we're gonna let him be as we ask him our questions. He just came in first place at the Power 9 Games GT in Las Vegas, playing Deathwatch, which we're all stoked about to see Deathwatch still placing well. So we're gonna ask him all kinds of crazy questions. But first off, Evan, let's just start. How was the tourney? Like, how was the terrain? How were your opponents? How was the venue?
So that's where I play all my RTTs at, is at this game store.
Oh, okay.
So it's a great venue. The terrain is okay. You've got 6 runes per table, 2 craters, 2 forests. It's your standard table. Nothing to complain about. It's definitely not as dense as some of the other events that I've played at. I play a lot of events in Salt Lake, and they use the Vanguard Tactics terrain. That's a lot more dense, but the terrain is great. The venue is great. All the guys that come out there are super great. So it's a super fun place to play.
And just to reiterate, this was a GT held at the venue that you normally go to RTTs at? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure. Like, sometimes BCP will say that a thing that's a GT or that was an RTT was actually a GT, and so on.
This was actually supposed to be a major. We sold 68 tickets.
Oh, wow.
But we only had 39 or 40 people show up.
Okay. Well, hey, that's still a good turnout.
Yeah.
I mean, in our, with COVID and everything.
Yeah, with COVID, and Vegas is still, it's super locked down there, so
okay, you
don't get as many people going to Vegas right now as normal.
Yeah, my oldest brother actually lives there, so I fly down usually once a year and spend a week with them or whatever.
Well,
not on the strip though, because that's for tourists.
If you ever make it the first Saturday of the month, we always have our RTT that weekend.
Oh, I can't wait to fly down and then tell my brother I can't spend any time with you.
No, just one day.
Or any of my nieces or nephews, because I have to play tiny plastic army men with a bunch of strangers for one afternoon. Sorry. All right. Well, so how long have you been playing? It sounds like a while from our little pregame talk. And then, what drew you to Deathwatch, at least for this specific game?
So I've been playing for about 20 years. I started when I was 14.
Okay.
And
we're around the same age then.
Yeah.
I'm 37.
Yeah, I'm 34. So
nice.
I've been playing since I was, a kid, back in 3rd edition when the game first, it kind of went more mainstream in 3rd edition with the 3rd edition starter box and everything. My parents got it for me one year for Christmas. And I started playing Marines, and I've played Marines ever since. I have a gigantic Ultramarines collection. I think I have literally almost every single Marine model ever made from 3rd edition on. So as far as what drew me to Deathwatch for this event, we were playing around with John Lennon's list, me and a couple of guys I practiced with, his Ultramarines list.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
And I was like, how do we make it better? And this was after he had took it to Atlantic City.
Okay. The Ultramarine list or the
Ultramarine list? Yeah, he took the Ultramarine list to Atlantic City.
Gotcha.
And then 2 weeks later, he took a Deathwatch list to a GT.
Yep.
And before he took that Deathwatch list to that GT, we had come up with almost the exact same Deathwatch list.
That's fantastic.
Between me and my buddies after looking at his Ultramarine list, and it's just really good at a lot of things in the meta. And
like
playing with
Raiders,
with the guys, it kills Raiders great. And in Vegas, one of the boogeyman list right now is speed-waaagh, right? Like speed-waaagh is the boogeyman. And there's
I would love to talk to you more about that, because that is something I have not encountered yet. But please.
And they're one of the top 2 orc players every year is Ben Jurek, and he's located in Vegas, and he's running speed-waaagh. And I played against him at the RTT the month before. and this was the only list I could really come up with that I thought I could beat it with, because this
Okay.
list has ways to deal with speed-waaagh. That's not just can I outscore you and not die.
Like strength
That's
8
how
and strength 9.
that's how Drukhari beats it. Is they just survive long enough. They have so much MSU that they can out survive it. Whereas this list is like, you literally can't kill anything in my army on turn 1. So how are you going to beat me?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I've done a whole bunch of Deathwatch interviews. I love this army so much, like how versatile we are, and I absolutely love to watch as I have seen, like, I feel like by now it's been long enough that I've gotten to watch this Deathwatch meta, like, you know, be born as a little baby, like, oh, let's run a lots of dreadnoughts. It's like, okay, great. And then it was like, oh, now it's grown into an adolescent. Okay, we're gonna use like lots of fast Proteus kill teams with like bikes and stuff. Oh, fantastic. And then like you get to watch it like go off to high school, and like now we're like adding, you know, some like action monkeys, or adding some like suppressors, and everybody is doing this in their own way. Like they're adding their own little, just a little take, right? Like some take one fewer redemptor and bring another kill team. Some skip the in cursor squad, and that helps them bring that like extra kill team. And then they're like that they just flood the board with these fast troops that go through buildings and stuff. But you doubled down on Dreadnought. So I'm gonna switch to your list here on the screen. But you went probably one of the heaviest Dreadnought lists I've seen.
It's the most you can do and still have command points.
Yeah,
right? Like, that's basically the way you look at it.
Still have any command points at all. Yeah. That's beautiful. So just so everybody knows, I'm gonna scroll down here. So the elites that you brought are 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, all built the exact same way. You got your Icarus rocket pods, Storm Bolters, Macroplasma, Onslaught. You get, so that's everything. And then you brought 3 Volkite Redemptors. Right, yeah. That. Sorry. 3 Relic Contemptors with Volkite for all that mortal wound spam. So you left out a whole lot of that extra stuff for more just straight firepower. Like you just doubled down, and then that also, like you said, cost you a CP.
I know the terrain at this event because I play their RTTs all the time, and I know there's always going to be firing lanes. So the more you can shoot, the better. It's less, oh, I can hide stuff. It's more just straight up, I just want to blow you off the table to win the game.
Absolutely. So we'll just go from top to bottom now. You did bring 2 relics, but that's it. Nothing more. The Deathwatch relics, we have talked about this to death on my show, but oh my god, we have some of the best relics in the game, and you almost have to spend 2 extra to bring 3, because why wouldn't you? We have 4 of the most amazing relics available to like any army.
And for me, it's just I didn't want to bring another character, so
which is
like I don't have another place to put a relic, so I was like, whatever.
Well, you're already only starting with like 6 CP, so that would bring you to 5. Not that like Deathwatch needs that like surgical aspect where like we need 2 or 3 this turn. You don't need to constantly rely on them, unlike my other army, Grey Knights, where like you want to be spending them throughout the whole game. And if you run out, you're at a severe disadvantage. The Deathwatch army and this list and these and lists like this are so strong in and of themselves with just the buffs that they bring that you don't really need to like fall back and rely on those command points honestly, as much as
it's normally 2 CP to act as another chapter is the only real strat I ever use.
Yeah. Brotherhood of Veterans. And probably normally, as White Scars, right?
It's actually normally Iron Hands.
Ooh.
to make a Dreadnought go, like if I have a Dreadnought on 1 or 2 wounds, I can heal it to 5 and then double it to make it act as top profile.
Fantastic.
So that's normally what it gets used for. Because then I just kind of slingshot him out there to die.
Okay. That's, yeah. I mean, because you're just like saying, please shoot me. And if they don't, then that's on them.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's great. All right. So, speaking of those action monkeys, one of the ways that your list kind of switches it up from others is you bring some company vets. You doing them up melee style with lightning claws, and then you've got some servitors as well. So why? So the veterans obviously give bodyguard, but like, what else are they? Are they just anti-charge or?
The veterans are literally there just to hold the backfield objective. I happen to have like 10 points left at the end. I couldn't invest in anything else. So I was like, here's some lightning claws, boys. So
here you go.
You have them just in case. But
okay.
As far as that, they're literally just my backfield action monkeys for the most part.
Beautiful.
Or in some specific missions, I'll spend 1 CP to put in strategic reserve the servitors and the company veterans.
Gotcha.
And bring them on to do retrieve Octarius data.
Okay. So then you'll go down to what, 4?
Well, it depends on the mission on what I'm playing. It only costs 1 CP to put both. It only costs 1 CP to put both of them in strategic reserve because it's based on power level.
Good to know.
And they're only
right.
They're only 2 or 3 power level each.
I really, so I'm a newer player. It's very confusing to me when they shoehorn in power level these weird times. You're like, oh, strategic reserves, or and you're like, no, you can only do so many power levels. It's like, what? Nothing else in this game seems to be based on that, but okay, you do you.
Yeah, so it's only 1 CP to strategic reserve both of those units, and you can bring them in for rod, and you can still use your suppressors for rod too if you need to.
Yeah, I got a whole. I love suppressors in general, so I got a whole laundry list of things that I want to discuss with you about those beautiful winged boys. If we move into your HQs, you have the Primaris Captain with the Relic shield that you upgrade into the Dominus Aegis. You gave him the Nowhere to Hide aura to remove cover from the closest enemy unit. Beautiful. What you did that was different here is you took Storm of Fire, where a lot of these lists take Rites of War, and so for our listeners, Rites of War gives any core and character units within this bubble objects or objective secured. And what Storm of Fire does is it's units, you target one unit.
Nope, it's all units in range.
Okay, so please,
on 6s to wound you do an extra AP,
right,
but it doesn't ever stack with combat doctrines, so like you never get -2 on your Volkite.
But that's how you get around the fact that you're not bringing the Dark Angel's Brilliant Tactician or Brilliant Strategist. But Brilliant Strategist only affects one targeted model. So like John Lennon's list that was very similar, right? He would target one relic contemptor, basically force them back into the Devastator Doctrine, which would give them -1 AP for one more round, and he could do that twice a round for 3 rounds of Devastator.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of always giving Devastator, but only with 6s to wound, which is what you're fishing for with the relic contemptors anyway. That way you get more mortal wounds. Like, it's very synergistic, and I love it.
You also get it on all of your other stuff too. So your Gatling guns are getting it on your Knights or on your Redemptors. Your Stormbolters get it on turn 1. You know, if you really have an opponent coming at you, like when I played round 4 against Adam with his Knights, my kill teams are in range of it too. So my kill teams are getting the bonus in Dev Doctrine, right, on their 6s. So it's, you can really stack it up if you have to.
Cool. So, were you stringing them back to make sure that they got the aura, or was it just everything was so clumped together because you're fighting knights?
Against knights, you literally just put your whole army in one spot and say, "Come at me, bro."
Nice. So, we'll get into each individual matchup more specifically, but as a new player, knights is an army I've never fought of either type. So it's always, and I know that they're kind of thought of as a God, what's the term? A tilt list, where like if you don't have the anti-tank to deal with them, you just lose to them. It doesn't matter. And that's how they do well in tournaments right now, is they come in and they crush the people that just aren't ready to deal with knights, and then those armies probably do very well against everything else, but they lose to knights. So very curious to hear how that set went.
We'll get, once we get to it, we'll talk about it.
Great. So then we go into your Primaris Techmarine, all the normal stuff, Master of the Forge, so that you never have to roll to see how much they heal. You got Hero of the Chapter for Warden of Ancients, which is a very cool choice, and one that, if anybody remembers my interview with Denith Leonagama, he is a Deathwatch player down in Australia, and he has been taking Warden of the Ancients for the last few months, because he said that if anybody gets up on you at all, like, Redemptors are already known for being crazy good in combat regardless. Like the D3 plus 3, they're massive amounts of attacks, rerolls, because they're core, like they're so scary anyway, that when you give them an extra attack, it just makes them like more deadly, right?
It also bumps the Contemptors to strength 8. So
that's right.
You're wounding Marines on 2s.
It's +1 strength, +1 attack.
So you're wounding Marines on 2s with the Contemptors and stuff. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. And I'm like, my Contemptor slaps for 6 attacks on 3s, then wounds on 2s.
And earlier you were mentioning you're dealing with speed-waaagh right now in your local meta, and with Ramshackle, strength 8, you no longer get Ramshackle.
Yeah. If you're punching things with your Contemptors, you probably lost the game already anyway.
Well, I mean, fair enough. I'm just trying to like think about all the other
there's a lot of
the other benefits that might.
A lot of times when you're fighting Marines is where it comes into big, like, they're like, I'm going to tag you with these 2 Marines, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to slap you with 6 attacks on 3s and 2s. So
yeah, very cool. So Tome of Ectoclades, obvious, like, best relic we have.
Best relic in the game, by far.
Yeah, pick one data sheet, everything rerolls all wounds against it for that turn. It's absurd. I don't even think it's that phase, right? It's that turn. Yeah?
It's probably the turn, but I don't think I've ever had it come up to where I wasn't just shooting.
Turn 1, Raider, go!
Yeah, we'll talk about that in Game 5. That was...
absolutely. So then, all right, so we go into your troops. You have an Incursor squad for 105 points. I don't know why anybody wouldn't bring these guys over Intercessors. Like, they're better, just their guns a little shorter range, and otherwise they're better in like every imaginable way. The forward deployment is awesome. You didn't pay for it here, but the Haywire Mine is hilarious because everybody always forgets it's there. Even if you just told somebody it's there, they immediately forget it's there, and then they die. You've got two identical Proteus kill teams. We're seeing a lot of the shotgun vets now. I love them.
They're so good.
I can't believe that when I first read the supplement, I mean, I'm a new player anyway, but like I read it and I was like, why would anybody take these damn shotguns? You can't take a storm shield. It's really short range, but I didn't think it all the way through. In my own games, I've been using these things and they are so much, like, even if they weren't good, they are so much fun. Like, honestly, you just advance everywhere. Like, good luck if anybody with any shitty models, like cheap, low wound count models want to ever charge you. Like, please charge me with your incubi. Please do it. Please. Love to just kill you.
Everyone forgets they have a flamer. And
Yep.
like you tell them before the game, you're like, I have these 3 fire profiles. And then they get close to you and they're going to charge you. And I'm like, I'm going to Overwatch with my 5 flamers. And they're like, what? I told you.
Yeah.
4 times they have flamers.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. Yeah, 5D6 auto. Yeah, like they're so good. I love them. And that's the thing is, like, I found that I was advancing mine all the time, more or less to even get into flamer range. Because at this point, like at that point, you don't care. You advance, you're gonna hit anyway. And then, you know, it's weight of dice at that point. You like how, you know, you effectively, like, by the actual math, you all effectively have storm bolters at that point. You have on average 4 shots a guy, strength 4, 1 damage, no AP. Like, that's auto hitting though, so they're better than storm bolters. Right? Because they've already auto hit you. So good. Love those things. And then I see that you didn't take the combat shield on your watch, sergeants. I assume that's just kind of you ran out of
I don't have points.
Okay. Because I found those to be clutch every now and then. Not all the time. Like a 5-up is still 1/3 of the time it's not gonna, or 1/3 of the time it will help you, and 2/3 of the time it won't. But I found them fun. But you don't have them. So then I see that you also did. So I believe John Lennon's list had 3 van vets, 2 bikers.
And there's all different variations. There's
4
4 bikers and 1 vet. It goes all different variations.
Which is
for me, this is the one that survives the best.
Yeah.
Right. It offsets damage the best with the 3 wounds against all the 2 wound damage, and the storm shields are great. So.
And it's toughness 5.
Yep.
Until you lose 2 bikers, it's toughness 5. So, which is surprisingly good.
And normally for me, the Vanguard vets are actually dying first. So, because I'm normally taking the storm shield saves. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're gonna try to blast you with like their craziest stuff just so that you don't get off a charge, right? Like they're gonna try to stop you. So yeah, unfortunately then they lose the infantry keyword and they can no longer run through buildings, but then hopefully you're already in their side of the table, probably already their deployment zone anyway, and then the ability to move through a building is not as useful at that point, right? Like you've already got them by the belt buckle.
Yeah.
So
normally it's the tables we're playing on, they have the 2 mid-board runes and you're staging behind them, and then once you pop out, you're losing your Vanguard bets, and it doesn't matter at that point anyway.
Gotcha. Okay. I know we have some viewers. I'd like to remind everybody there is a chat function. Please ask any of the questions that you have that pertain to Warhammer or that tournament or this list. You don't have to wait until we hit the topic that you want to discuss. I'm more than happy to move around. So please just leap right in. Your bikers have chainswords, which I love. Like, there's just, not only is weight of dice mathematically good, There is something viscerally amazing about like grabbing 41 dice or whatever, right? And just throwing a ton of dice. It feels good. It's imposing to your opponent. And they're cheap. I mean, they're free, right? So why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why would you ever take the bolt pistol when this unit's for free?
Yeah, especially on a unit that like you are moving them up the board as fast as you can, specifically engineered to take punishment while they get there and do things like move through buildings to charge, right? Like that is their job, is to charge.
Well, in my list, their job is hold middle objectives and survive as long as possible.
Okay. I guess you do only have 2, which is very different than the way that like Fred Fortman, who won the charity prep GT, he played his very aggressively. He wanted them to be like in the enemy's deployment zone turn 2.
Mine, like in all but one of my games, I left them as 10-man bricks.
Really?
And I literally just moved them into the middle of the table on an objective, and all the infantry touch the building and say, try to kill me.
Oh, wow. That is very... Okay, so you got them up there so that they'd get their +1 save from being in cover.
So I'm getting 2-ups on the regular guys, 1-ups on the Vanguard vets.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just saying, cool, I'm in this building with 10 Marines. Deal with it.
Huh. Okay, that is very cool and very different, and not at all when I... Like, this is one of the things about this game that's so fascinating, right? Is that you and I, we never talked, and I built my list, or I just took your list, and I went to my own local tournament, based on what I know about how Deathwatch plays. I would have played this very differently. Like, I would have tried to... Like, I would have combat squatted, you know, in like a 6 objective map. I would have left my company vets and my servitors probably on the backfield, maybe raising banners or whatever. The shotgun guys would probably advance to the middles, hold that the whole time. I try to squeeze them into whatever cover I could find, and then the really fast with the van vets and the bikers, I'd be like shoving them into the enemy face, either as tar pits to slow them down or like trying to grab their like backfield, right? So like already you and I are thinking about this very, very differently. And I love that.
It's totally matchup dependent, right? Like against the Drukhari, I combat squad because they have so many. They're MSU. So
yeah.
I need it, right? But in every other matchup, I needed them to be 1 brick that just said, "Try to move me, I dare you."
Okay, very cool. And that also explains more about why like you didn't find combat shields really that necessary on your watch sergeants, is because most of the time they were a 10-man brick anyway, and you always had those 2 storm shields on the van vets to kind of fall back on. So that makes sense too. And then you have your Redemptor brick, which we discussed about at the very beginning here, or your Dreadnought brick. It's not just Redemptors, which obviously stay as close to that captain and that Techmarine as possible. And shoot the ever-living shit out of everything. And then to round out your list, you have what I find fascinating and awesome, and I love these guys, the Suppressors. You have 3 of them. They're super fast. Unfortunately, only toughness 4. But they have a 48-inch gun, which is almost like it was specifically designed to kill raiders, by the way. Like, 3 shots, 2 damage, strength 7? So they've only -1 EP, so you're winning on 3s. They go right to their 5-up invul. You don't you're not paying extra points for like 1 extra CP, right? Like, it's already going to just do enough. And then if the whole squad hits, you can severely odds are you will severely damage one, and then if you roll a little hot, you will pop a raider with 3 of these. beautiful bastards.
In the Tome of the Ectoclades, you'll probably kill
you are going to pop one. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's just talk a little bit. Is that how you use this? Suppressors is like a roving like squad to kill the things that annoyed you the most.
In most games for me, they're actually just there to do rod. They're the cheapest space marine thing that you can deep strike.
That's fair. They deep strike. They're only 100 points.
100 points.
Mm-hmm. Folks, when they're doing target priority, are probably gonna ignore them. And they're fast.
Yep. So if you drop on one side of, like, 6 inches in for rod, and you can shoot, the next turn you move, shoot. If they don't kill you, you can move again the next turn, and you're already in the next quarter. Whereas none of your other units can like jump a quarter in one turn.
Yeah.
And then you can do it the next turn and the next quarter if they don't kill them, if they're just letting them do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're
not scary to people.
Right. And that's the thing too. It's like I've learned very recently that like threat overload is definitely a thing. Absolutely. And when you have Ravagers and Raiders, and I know that I'm really picking on Drukhari, but if you have units with strong guns and you have 6 Dreadnoughts that you have to kill, you're probably not going to shoot 1 or 2 of those guns at a suppressor squad, right? Like, yeah, if you've got some like Chaos Space Marine, Marines that have moved into range and they don't have a better target, like, yeah, they'll probably plink at them with a few shots, but odds are you'll still have, like, for Rod specifically, you only need 1 of those guys to actually live.
Yep.
So you can just jump all over the place with a 33.3 point model, just doing Rod, and that guy can just get you your 12 points. That's beautiful. I love it. So that's your list. It's fantastic. Good info there. It doesn't look like, you thought it all through. It's interesting that you already kind of had looked at what the meta was, at least in your area, and what other folks were playing, and you'd already kind of figured out between your mates and everything, like, what you needed to do. And I mean, the whole 5-up invul bubble for core units for Deathwatch, like, that's the only reason that Redemptors are bad in any way, is they don't have an invul.
Yep.
And Deathwatch is just like, here, have one.
And that's the thing, right? So when they do it with the Ultramarines, they have to cast the power. So if your opponent goes first, you don't get it. You're just, that sucks for me. I don't have an invul. Whereas Deathwatch is just like, cool, it exists. I have it. Problem solved.
Hey, PC, what's up? All you've missed so far is an in-depth readout of the list. So you're definitely going to want to come back and watch this video again, because you missed a lot of great info. But we'll probably hit on it again specifically when we get into the matchups, which we are going to do right now. So round 1, you fought Space Wolves, is that right?
Yep. And this was actually my second hardest game.
Of these 5?
Of the 5 games, this is the second hardest game that I had to play. Because Dreadnoughts don't kill other Dreadnoughts very good.
So, PC, I do want to say that, yes, you actually just missed how he explained using the suppressors, and you missed it by about 30 seconds. Long short is he uses it mainly for rod, and he plinks at the stuff that he thinks that he can get kills on. Bam, that's it. If you want the more in-depth answer, you're gonna have to keep watching, actually, probably. So, Space Wolves, your second hardest matchup. I've never fought Space Wolves ever, so please go into as much detail as you think you need.
The big thing here is they've got a bunch of Dreadnoughts, which have -1 damage, and most of my stuff is 2 damage.
Yeah.
Right, my shooting anyway. So I can't just shoot them to death like I normally would, because they're gonna negate a lot of my damage. They also have a relic, which is really, really tough for Dreadnoughts.
Is it the fight last for Russ?
Last.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fight last
so
is
you can't.
so
I can't
good.
just charge in with a Redemptor and pick up a Dreadnought because my Dreadnought's going to fight last, and his Dreadnought will easily kill my Dreadnought. So I don't have that luxury, right? To just be like, cool, I'm going to run in and pick you up because he'll just pick me up in return first.
Gotcha. Of course.
So this game, I won the role to pick deployment zones. So the table only has one forest on every table. So I get the forest, which is huge, right? Because I get the -1 on all my Dreadnoughts. Put my whole Dreadnought brick in the forest.
How big is the forest?
It's one of the GW forests. So if you've ever played with the GW forests,
like, is it like a dinner plate, like a serving plate?
they're probably 8 inches by 4 inches.
Okay, so I mean that's pretty significant.
All you have to do is have
like
one part of your base just touching it.
Yeah,
so it's pretty easy to put 6 Dreadnoughts in the forest and put your 2 characters in the middle.
I just built my first 2 Relic Contemptors the other day, and I was amazed by how tiny they are next to a Redemptor. Like, they look like children, honestly.
They are very small, which has its good things and its bad things.
Sure. I mean, they're on, what, 60mm bases, if I remember right? Yeah. And the Redemptor is on, like, what,
it's a 90.
80? 90. Wow. 90. Yeah. Holy crap. Okay. Anyway. So you, like, towed in on all of the forest for that. Sweet. -1 to hit, and...
I deep struck my 2 big kill teams for 1
and
each.
And your suppressors?
The suppressors deep strike. The incursors just go sit in the middle of the table where they're pretty happy behind a wall, and they stay an inch away from the wall where the Dreadnoughts can't charge them. They're safe. He doesn't have any real infantry melee threats that are going to run through the wall and kill them, so they're happy just sitting there. And my
Space Wolves don't have an infantry melee threat, or this specific list didn't?
In his list.
Oh wow! I need to look at his list. I mean, I'm not going. Okay, please.
He's got some incursors, just like I had. But if he runs into me, he's on the side of the wall where I can see him, and he's not going to kill all my incursors in 1 round of melee. So I'll just fall back and shoot them to death, and he'll lose an asset.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go more in depth on his list, but I'm not a Space Wolves. Like, I'm not well versed in that army at all. So I always thought that they wanted to be constantly charging and heroically intervening and just being a melee monstrous threat. But
they do, but his list is just basically 7 Dreadnoughts.
Oh, it's 7. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he has 7 Dreadnoughts. He has 2 Redemptors.
Oh.
One of the character Dreadnoughts. And
then, like Bjorn or whatever.
He has Bjorn, 2 Redemptors, and then 3 Venerable 4-up Invuln Axe Dreadnoughts.
Oh my god, okay. So if you want to play Dreads, I should play Space Wolves. That's what I'm hearing.
They're not as good because you can't get the Invuln on the Redemptors. You can't get a lot of the other things that Deathwatch can bring to the table. They do have one really, really cool kind of shtick. They have a psychic power that you can give them cover, because it just gives cover to everything. It doesn't matter if it's a vehicle, so you get the +1 save. And then for 2 CP, you can give everything in that bubble -1 to hit.
Is it like a Space Wolves unit? Is that the terminology?
Yeah, it's Space Wolves core unit.
Oh, core. Okay, then most of their stuff. Okay, cool.
Yes, it's Space Wolves core unit gets cover, so the Dreadnoughts get 2-up saves, and then there's a special stratagem for 2 CP to give -1 to hit to everything that already has that effect of that psychic power.
So
you could,
real quick, just like, so as a Grey Knights player, we still have Tide of Shadows, which grants the whole army.
Yep.
If +1 to their, it grants them light cover if they don't have it. If they do have it from terrain, they automatically get -1 to hit. Now that's as long as you're outside of like 12 inches, but you're saying that for Space Wolves to do the same kind of thing, but only to a brick around the caster, or around one...
a brick around the caster.
So then the caster has to cast a power, get it off, which can be denied. Not that you had any psychers, but and then they have to spend 2 CP to give them -1.
Yep.
Ooh, okay.
But it's
puts things into perspective though. Like when you hear how an army that you play does its thing for effectively free,
yeah,
and how other armies get a similar mechanic but have to pay like a lot of opportunity costs for it. It puts things into perspective, and that was a real learning moment for me anyway. So
yeah,
please.
So it's a good effect in the game, and there are a lot of lists that there's not a lot of firepower in the game anymore. Like the game has gone to so many like melee fighting armies. There's not a lot of shooting, so it's a good shtick for when you have to play against the other shooty armies. Your dreadnoughts can be like, cool, I'm as survivable as I can be in this list while I walk up the table to punch you.
So it makes a list that's already mediocre a little worse.
Yeah,
and that way you can go punch.
This list was just tough for me because he's got the dreadnoughts, so I can't just shoot him to death, and he's got the fight last, which both things are very tough for my list to deal with. That's like the two things I always ask. I'm like, do you have any -1 damage, and do you have any fight last when I walk up to a table? Because those are the two things that hurt my army the most.
Okay.
As far as the game goes, he went first. He shot his stuff at a Redemptor, got it down to like 5 wounds. I shot back, killed 2 of his Redemptors.
Wow.
With the tome of the Ectoplasms.
I was gonna say, did you roll hot or did you use tome?
I tomed the Redemptor. I killed 2 of them with all of my shooting, and it was just a little bit of back and forth. I didn't score real well this game. I only scored 68 points, I think. So it was a pretty low win. And he scored like 45 points. So it wasn't like I crushed him type of win, because this is it's a very difficult matchup for my list.
Gotcha. So your very first matchup is not your, I won't say hard counter, but it's tough.
It's a very tough list for
that's cool. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, as a like observer, that's interesting and fun. And as the player, it's probably frustrating.
The guy was a newer player. He was actually his very first tournament ever.
Okay.
And it was one of those like, man, you just happen to walk up the table with all the stuff that I'm really bad at killing. So as far as the game goes, like I said, it was a real close back and forth game until eventually I managed to kill enough. And he pushed up on the table so hard that me putting my 2 kill teams in reserve, there was almost nowhere I could deep strike them because their footprint is so huge that I had to deep strike them in my backfield on turn 3.
Oh no!
He had left me nowhere to put them on the table. So that's why I wasn't able to like move out and hold the middle objectives, is because I'd put them in deep strike. Normally, there's a spot you can stick them somewhere in a corner somewhere, and then charge onto an objective in the middle of the table because they're so fast.
Yeah.
But he didn't really leave me anywhere. He wasn't even trying to do it. It's just there would be like, oh, I'm 2 bases short of putting this unit here, or 1 base short of sticking a unit here.
I mean, 32 millimeter brick, or well, I mean 30 or 7. I'm sorry, 7 32 millimeter, and then 3 of those bike bases, which are like the little hot dogs.
Yeah,
those weird little hot dogs. Yeah, that's rough. But I mean, otherwise, not a remarkable game. Just some really hard to kill stuff, things. And then
yeah, I charged into a Redemptor and got heroically intervened from 6 inches from a character, which I forgot was a thing.
Pew, pew. Yeah,
I forgot it was 6 inches, and he's like, yeah, and he's got the armor of rust, and you fight last, and your dreadnought dies, and I was like,
yeah. And then you're like, I deserve that. Like, yeah, I knew better. I did it anyway.
But one 10-man kill team in the Assault Doctrine kill the dreadnought in melee.
Really? A Redemptor or
no, just an 8-wound venerable dreadnought.
Gotcha. But that's legit.
It's
though.
Still,
I mean,
you got so many attacks.
Yeah, it's not a great trade though. I mean, okay. So I say that just strictly speaking points, and obviously as a game is like going on, suddenly, 145 point Venerable Dreadnought might be like about to win this guy 10 extra points, and so it's worth it to just slam a much more expensive unit into it, and that keeps you in the game, or like keeps you on top. But like your Proteus kill teams are 250 points, and so
they normally never get their points back in a game, like in killing things. I don't think they ever got their points back in killing things.
But they got their points from holding things.
From holding things. Like, that's literally what they're there for. They're there to... So in killing that Dreadnought, he was on an objective that I had charged onto, which got me the objective. So even if he fights me back, he doesn't kill my whole kill team, and I hold the objective.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to like remember, right? Is like, even if they have the best profile in the world, and let's say they do 10,000 damage, if they've only got 3 attacks, then you can just tar pit them with a 5 model unit, and they're only going to kill 3, and then you score it on your next turn, guaranteed. Yeah, that's a great point. I love it.
So there's the OBSEC off those guys came in more games than one, where it's just like, my bike can move 14, and I'm going to OBSEC this objective all the way over here that you're not ready for.
I don't know if you have a lot of spare time, but if you do, I recently did a 1,000 point bat rep against an orc friend of mine, and there was a time that I had like 2 van vets left on an objective, and he only had bikers on his, or like I think it was like 5 bikers versus mine, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have OBSEC. That's actually my objective. It's like, I get to score that this turn. How great for me. That might have actually won me the game, now that I'm thinking about it. And that was like turn 2 or something. Anyway, like the OBSEC on our bikers and like our van vets it doesn't sound like much. It's like, oh, what a great little bonus, but it's actually like super clutch, and it's really a strong part of the army for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's the Dreadnoughts do all the killing, and honestly, most of the games the kill teams just die. But in dying, they've scored me so many points on little objectives that I've already won the game anyway. So
yeah, and if they throw some shaft thing on there to try to like take it, you just remind them like, no man, I'm OBSEC.
Yeah.
So you better be on here with like a 20-man ranger brick, because I've got 10 dudes on here, and good luck.
And normally, if I'm obsecking on an objective to take it from somebody, one bike is exactly 3 inches and holding the objective, and everyone else is off doing something else.
I love it. Yep, that's beautiful. So Sindri is saying that they're actually working on a new Deathwatch kill team at the moment. You were doing a bunch of hobbying when we started, and then he says, my Grey Knights weep. And I just want to say that, Sindri, if you haven't put your Grey Knights on the table yet, as a Grey Knights player myself, you should, because, oh wow, we're so good now and so much fun, and just we're all over the board, and it's fantastic. You should definitely try.
Until you run into Deathwatch.
Until you run into a 6 Dreadnought brick, so you're round 2, which that was actually you did fight Grey Knights, the new
round 3
codex on round 3.
Yep.
But we're not there yet, and I can't wait to just pick apart everything about that. It's my 2 favorite armies, man. Like, we're gonna spend a lot of time there. But so round 2, you fought Orks. Was this the speed-waaagh Orks?
This is the speed-waaagh.
Oh, so this is like where you're like, this is what you designed everything to kill?
Yep, because there's 4 speed-waagh at the tournament, and they're all like frontline team players and top orc players, and
so like really good players. Okay.
And so I walk up to the table, and he's like, "Oh, you're the one army I don't want to fight." And I was like, "Oh, cool, man. Nice to meet you too."
Nice. Putting down your relic contemptors.
And he's all, so looking at your list, these are the things that are going to help me beat you. And I was like, yeah, that's the bad thing. And I was like, but I played Ben, who again is one of the Vegas guys who plays speed-waaagh, and I was like, I learned some things last RTT. And I was like, I'm going to spend we get to the reserve step of deployment. And I was like, so I'm going to put my suppressors in reserve. I'm going to spend 2 CP, 1 for each of my kill teams, and put them in reserve. And I'm going to spend 2 CP and strategic reserve my servitors, my company veterans, and my incursors.
Oh my God. So you only started with your 6 dreads, your 2 HQs, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, right? So as somebody who sucks in the deployment phase, like I'll just straight up say it's probably the weakest part of my game, so I suck at it. Run me through your mental process of why you decided to blow 5 of your 6 CP, or 4 of your 6? 4 of your 6 CP to reserve most of your army.
Okay, so the way speed-waaagh works is once they kill something, they get +1 to hit.
Is it just that unit, or is it the whole army?
The whole army.
Okay.
Gets +1 to hit once they kill something. So by eliminating everything that's easy to kill in my army, I also happen to get the forest again in this matchup.
Okay.
Right? So that makes his whole army only hitting my dreadnoughts on 6s.
6s, yeah.
Right? So in order for him to kill 1 dreadnought, by the time he gets a kill on a dreadnought, he's going to have gone through so much efficiency in his army that +1 to hit's not going to matter by the time he gets to his last 1 or 2 things that are going to shoot.
Okay.
Whereas if I have a unit of servitors on the table or something dumb, he flies a plane over behind the building, shoots the servitors, gets the +1 to hit. And then if there's something else for him to kill, he flies another plane over and kills something else.
That's gorgeous.
The +1 to hit actually stacks.
Okay. So no way.
So if he gets +2 to hit, you can never get more than +1 to hit.
Well, right, yeah. That's the way 9th works, but yeah.
But me being in a forest, if he gets +2 to hit, he's ignoring the forest.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm like, all right, so my whole army's in reserve. You can do, whatever. I'm going to put my whole army in this forest. Have fun. So,
all right, that's very interesting. That's actually something I didn't know Orks could do at all. However, so then you are just mentally prepared at that point. Your turn 2 primary to suck. I'm gonna get 0 for primary on.
We got a hold 1, hold 2, and there's an objective right outside my forest.
Okay, so you're gonna get 5.
My 1 Redemptor is gonna hold the 1 that I can touch from my forest.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be I'm gonna get 5 points.
Okay, but you're already you've already got a whole game plan. And you're like, I'm gonna get 5, and after that I'm gonna get 10, and then probably 15 and 15. And
yep, that's normally the goal.
Okay, that's very very interesting. And this is another thing that I personally struggle with is I want to be aggressive all the time. Be aggressive. So I always want to be pushing up, being obnoxious, making sure everything gets to shoot, even if it isn't the most effective way for them to shoot. The fact that I'm rolling dice makes me feel better about the fact that they did something. But then I'm starting to realize that no, sometimes you got to play cagey turn 1 and turn 2. Sometimes you got to take that L on turn 1 and turn 2, and then you can take the big capital W on 3, 4, and 5. Yep. And that is a hard lesson to learn when you want to be gaining max efficiency from everything at all times. You're no, I have to be shooting. But you purposefully knew, you're no, I'm going to take effectively nothing for turn 2 for primary. I'm going to gain maybe 3 points on engage. I'm going to get my 1 or maybe my 2nd rod off for 4 points. So that going into turn 3, you're only gonna have 7 points, 8 points or something.
And the thing
so
is
interesting.
Speed-waaagh, if you can, so turn 1 and turn 2 is when they're scary. After turn 1 and 2, their WOG falls off and they don't have the buff anymore.
Oh, it's only during the WOG. Okay, yes. That is I thought you meant that they just got it. like
No,
forever.
the speed-waag's still good. But
Yeah.
no, the +1 to hit is that they can do that always. That's
Oh,
just
okay.
their clan trait. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
speed-waagh is they get an extra AP and
Yep.
more shots.
Right. Okay.
So it's only for turn 1 and turn 2. So if you can weather turn 1 and turn 2 and kill enough, you can win in the later game against them because they're not
Right.
super scary.
And you've and now you've got a lot of like strength 8 shooting and the plasma at least, so you're at least going through their ramshackle. Are you seeing a lot of like, I know oh man, I'm gonna just show my ass here. When folks first got a hold of the previews of the Orc Codex, a lot of folks were talking about, I can't remember what the clan is now, but they effectively get transhuman.
Oh, no.
Is no one running that? No one's actually running that?
The speed-waagh, you have to play the clan Freebooters, which is the +1 to hit when you kill something.
Okay.
That's the clan that does
what
that.
clan am I thinking of where they like effectively have transhuman against anything that's not strength 8?
I think it's snake bites.
Snake bites. That's right. Yeah. And I know that chat will let us know if we're wrong. So, but yeah, I think it's snake bites. Are you seeing them being used at all? Because
the only orcs that I've personally seen is the speed-waagh, and I've seen it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rich Kilton, who's the top orc player almost every year.
Everybody's always like, yeah.
He's running Goffs for the OBSEC.
And Rich,
all the Storm Boys and Commandos and stuff like that.
Rich plays with Rich plays in the same team that was a double Dutch rudder with Lou, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Because Lou was my first interview ever on my channel ever. And Lou is like, if you want to talk to Rich ever, you just let me know. And at the time, I was a very Deathwatch centric channel. But as I learned more about the game, the more I want to just talk to good players. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure he has a lot to teach me, even if I don't play Orcs.
He's such an amazing guy.
Yeah.
We've met a couple times on top tables at tournaments, so
nice. And see, so for anybody listening right now, when I joined, Evan was so he was so modest about his play. He was talking about how apparently Lou thinks he's a great player, and Lou is Lou Rollins, by the way, who again was one of my first interviews ever. Lou set me up with Evan, and now we're having this great talk. But Evan was very modest about his play, and it's not like even just talking to you, man. It's not like you lucked into this win. Like you clearly knew exactly what your army can do and what your enemy's army can do. You set things up, you stacked the deck as much as you could to make sure that you could win, and it sounds like, I mean, it shows actually that like you won, you first place. Like that's awesome.
There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, and a lot of
for sure
knowing the terrain at the event you're going to play at. I'd say is like, if you're going to try to learn anything about competitive 40K, it's learn about the terrain at whatever event you're going to. That's going to be my number one thing.
Man, it was so as a new player who only started in 9th, I was actually very excited when I saw the core rulebook and they had these terrain rules, but I had just assumed that that's the way that 40K always was, that like, so if you're a student of military history at all, terrain plays an incredible part. It is the silent third player in any battle ever throughout the history of whenever. Like, yeah, we have like air support and satellites and drones and stuff now, but like terrain is the silent third player, right? You have to know your terrain, understand it, and engage within it. And that is entirely the same in 40K, even though it's dumbed down, right? You have to understand it, know where it is, know how it benefits you, and how it deficits the enemy. And so it was fascinating to me to learn, like months into my 40K career, if you will, into Night, to learn that the terrain rules for many editions were actually garbage.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible to me to actually like learn this. It's a war game, right? And I realize everything's an abstraction, and that's fine. It's a great game, but like that's a great point. Always know what the terrain that is going to be like at the tournament that you're going to go to. And then I assume the next part of that is practice around that terrain.
Yep. So like the list I just took and won with, I would never be able to take to a tournament in Salt Lake and win with, ever.
Really?
Because the terrain is way too dense.
So
like
it deficits shooting armies too much.
Correct. You would need to play a melee-centric army up there. That's what does best. Shooting armies will not succeed in their terrain set. Okay.
So PC just asks, and remember, chat is about 20 seconds behind us. He asked, so you tailor your list to the terrain that you're playing on.
Correct. This list was built very specifically for the terrain at this event, and like I said, it's the game store I play at every month for my RTT, so I know the terrain exactly how it's going to be set up every game.
Because the TO, so you had a kind of home field advantage.
Like, they're always set up this exact way. Every single time. The terrain's always the same, so you know what you're getting every time you go into the game. So my list
is it completely mirrored, other than the one forest?
So yeah, there are forests on one side, the craters on the other side, and there's cargo crates.
Okay.
On the other, on the other ends, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I wish I had some photos of a match to like throw up, but I don't. So everybody's gonna have to use the landscape of the mind to like paint their own picture at this point.
So here you go. If you want to paint it in your mind, there's a rune, and just an L-shaped rune in all four corners.
Okay.
A small-ish one. You know, you could hide an infantry unit or two behind it, but not like a massive one. There's two very large L-shaped runes in the center, and then on the long edge, one side has a forest and one side has a crater in there in the middle, and on the short edges, there's two cargo crates on the short edges in the middle.
And PC is bringing me back here. He just popped up Flowkark, which is an army thing for features, lanes, objectives, canalizing ground, approaches, rates, and avenues of approach, and key terrain. So just totally nerdy army stuff, but yeah, that's like terrain is everything. If you're fighting at all, like terrain is everything. You want terrain that it advantages you and disadvantages your enemy, and it sounds like you did that. So every time you won the deployment, you took the side with the forest. You then used that terrain piece to advantage your army. You placed your hard-hitting brick of dreads right behind it. Like, you knew it. It's great. Like, you did your recon. You had like satellite imagery, and you knew exactly what you wanted. You fought like the Deathwatch. Like, they're the most pragmatic bastards in the whole whole chapter lexicon. They'll do anything just to win, right? I love it. So that was round 2 with the Orks. which you eked out. Was it a solid win, a close win?
This was a solid win. I want to say this one was a 90 or like an 87, or if this one was a high win. Basically, turn one, I popped the tome, so the planes can't hide, right? Aircraft can't be obscured. Right.
So you just pop them out of the air.
Yep, I killed all 3 Daka jets on turn 1 with my tome, and also did a couple wounds to one of his buggies.
Okay, so you fought Chris. Oh yeah. So this was 82 to 50.
Yeah. He proceeded to come across the table with a couple buggies and kill one Redemptor between all of his shooting, and the buggies charging in. And then after that, when it got to my turn, I follow my number 1 rule in all of Warhammer. It's never shoot what you can charge.
Okay.
So that's like my number 1 rule. So there's 2 buggies right in my face, and everyone's like, oh, I'm just gonna shoot him and get him out of the way. But why shoot him when the Redemptor can walk up and just pick both of them up in 1 round of combat with 0 chance of failure, basically?
So I don't want to be that guy, but I'm about to be that guy. Do you think the same thing into like 20-man bricks of fucking Rangers?
Depends what you're... But, okay, so if you can't charge it and kill it, then no.
Okay. So that's the caveat. If you can't, never shoot what you can charge and kill.
Yeah, because I played Knights for a long time.
Okay, I got you.
And that's the big thing with Knights, is you never, ever shoot what's right in front of you, because you can just step on it.
Yeah. But you're not locked down either. Like, a Titanic unit can just fall back for free, do whatever it wants. Yeah. And that's one of the benefits of that army, because you have 480 point models.
And that's the thing right here. Like, I know the math says Redemptor with 6 attacks, because I have the Warlord trait on my Techmarine, and I'm going to charge. I'm going to get 6 attacks. I'm going to hit on 3s, re-rolling 1s because it's Xenos and melee. So I'm going to hit 6 times, most likely, right? And then
that's a beautiful point.
Fast attacks, what I picked for my whatever my slot that I can choose to reroll 1s against. I'm going to wound on 2s, rerolling 1s to wound. So I'm going to wound 6 times. He's going to get no save, and it's only
-4.
As long as I don't roll double 1s on my D3s, each one picks up a buggy, because the buggies have 9 wounds.
Yeah,
so I know that mathematically he's going to kill 2 of those buggies no matter what in melee, unless something terrible happens with my dice.
So I've been putting together a framework of some mathematics videos that I want to throw up to kind of teach folks, because as I teach other people, I learn and retain more. Even if it's like something that makes sense to me when I'm writing it, it doesn't mean that in the spirit of the moment on the table that I'll be able to like be like, especially at a tournament, right? Like with friends, it's one thing to be like, all right, I have 8 attacks and I hit on 3s and I got, and then do the math. But you need to kind of be able to do that math either very quickly, which means you're probably very gifted, and that's not most of us. That's definitely not me. Or you're going to have to dumb it down and like round it up or down, right? So you're going to have to be like, and that's where like 16.6% is one side of a die on a 6-sided die, but who does that math? Like, I just round that shit to 20%, even though I know it's wrong. It is faster to do that math. Right?
Or you just
and it gives you in the ballpark.
You've played so many games.
Or
that I know if I have this many attacks, this will happen. Right? And me, I try to play at least 4 games a week.
That's amazing, and I wish I could do that. I gotta play more TTS, man. That's the only way I'll be able to like actually do that. There's no way I can do personal. It's just my life is too busy. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I'm real lucky. I have 2 real close friends that live around me that between the 3 of us, we have almost every army that exists in 40K.
You're very lucky, man.
And we just come over and we play, just come over, hang out. Let's play a game Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Done.
So you can say, hey, man, Brad or whatever. I don't know what the guy's name is. It's Brad now. But like, hey Brad, I really need to play speed-waaagh Orks.
Yep.
Swing by, even if I'll buy you the beer, whatever, just like play me speed-waaagh Orks. And then he'll be like, yeah, man, sure, I'm there.
Even if we don't have the models, you know, you can proxy whatever you want if you're playing for fun. And that's the thing, like, and the three of us are all
that's a great point.
Players that you know, you can pick up an army and play it. You might not play it the way the best player is going to play it.
Like, you're not going to top table it, but you know, you're going to get 85% of the way there.
Yeah, and it's enough for you to understand how things work. Right? Yeah, like, if you can understand how things work, you're
anybody who's played 40K for a while and is like handed a speed-waaagh army is not going to forget what the speed-waaagh does.
Yeah.
They're going to forget those like little asinine, ridiculous niche stratagems. They might forget that their army or their one unit that just got buffed now moves like 1 inch faster. You know, they're going to forget the small stuff, but they're not going to forget the big stuff. They're not going to forget what folks think of as the big advantages of an army. Unless you're playing me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was heavy support, and I reroll ones to wound. But I'm also a very new player, so you know, that's great, man. Like, that's a real advantage that you have, and I'm glad that you're taking advantage of that advantage, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean, fantastic. For me, it's fun. It's my you know, my release, my get out of having to be in real life all the time. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we jump into Grey Knights, which I know how it goes, but I'm sad anyway. Sindri says, fight smart, fight death smart. And I know that you're old enough to actually get that reference. Some of the people that I speak to on this show are not. So, love me some Bruce Reynolds, man. Okay, so Grey Knights, round 3. Yep. What was that like? I don't know what his list was like. I know that a lot of players that are playing Grey Knights right now are trying a little bit of everything. Not to like defend your opponent, but just...
He's running the super librarian who does a crap ton of mortal wounds.
Yeah. It's a fun gimmick, but it's not going to stay around.
He's got 2 Dreadknights. A whole bunch of interceptors.
Yep. That's going to stick around.
He has a 5-man unit of Terminators, all with hammers.
Okay.
Which are actually pretty terrifying if they hit Dreadnoughts.
Okay. So Terminators are the less efficient option at the moment. They're 42 points each. Hammers are another 10 points per model on top. So like, that guy sunk a lot of points into that.
And he was using them as a hammer, right? He was using them to come up and try to hammer a Dreadnought.
Sure.
So this is a game where I lost the deployment roll, so I didn't get my forest. My opponent got the forest, and he puts his Dreadknights in the forest.
He's just going to use shadows.
To redeploy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so he puts foretelling of Locust. Yes. Very good.
But the Dreadknights don't get the -1 unless they're actually in the forest, because they can never.
That is true.
The Dreadknights are going to get the -1 for the forest.
Yes.
Plus, they're going to get the cover.
Yes. All of those statements are correct.
This is a game where I didn't reserve anything. Because I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt like he was going to come to me enough that I wasn't going to have to try to deep strike my big kill teams or anything.
Yep, that's a good point.
Basically, he moved the librarian up, did a bunch of mortal wounds, and then cast the power to do extra damage on a Dreadnought. And between the mortal wounds and all that, he killed 1 Redemptor and almost killed another one. But I was able to heal my Redemptor and acted as, it was at 2 wounds. So I healed it and I Iron Hands it, so it was acting at top profile. And between all my shooting, I picked up both of his Dreadknights and the Interceptors. He had jumped out onto the middle objectives. He jumped a 5-man unit onto each.
Mm-hmm.
I just walked out and shotgunned them to death.
Okay.
With the 2 damage -1 shotguns, they go away between that and the bolters. He proceeded to just keep throwing things on the middle objectives, and I just kept shooting him off of them.
Did he take Stranglehold or something? Like, was this a 6 objective map? I guess we should probably talk a bit about your secondaries too.
This was a 6 objective mission.
Uh-huh.
I took the kill infantry models one, whatever it's called.
No prisoners.
No prisoners.
Yeah.
He only had like 10 points total in his whole list, I think, that I could get, but I felt like it was the best I could get out of his list.
You gotta take Abhor the Witch.
I took Abhor the Witch.
Okay. I was gonna say, man. Like, as a Grey Knights player, that is like the worst secondary. Like, you have to go into that game just knowing you're 15 points behind. Because that secondary punishes Grey Knights and Thousand Suns so hard. It's like so ridiculous.
With how easy your Purifying Ritual is to get points on, though, it's almost like you guys have an auto 15 points.
That's, yes. So a fair and fantastic counter. And I feel like they had to put that in there and make it that good because of Abhor.
Yeah, and
like, I mean, they could have just stuck in a rule that said you cannot pick or Abhor the Witch against Grey Knights only affects psychic characters, or like they could have done something silly like that. But instead, they're like, no, let's just give them a really easy secondary, which is great unless we're playing an army that has 1 psyker and can't take Abhor, but we can still take Psychic Ritual, which means now we have a huge advantage, like against Drukhari.
Which
or
is
Admech.
Fine, right? If you guys get a huge advantage, it's kind of whatever, right? Like
or Imperial Knights.
I don't mind.
We're not in as great as a place as those other 2 armies that I just mentioned.
Like, I don't mind some armies having easy secondaries. Mm-hmm. There are some that are like I personally don't like the Drukhari one. That's just, if you're not in these quarters, you get points.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same
to me. Is
like, is it not the exact same one as the Necron one?
It is.
It's exactly the same.
The Drukhari,
right? But the Drukhari are so fast. They're so fast. Like the Necrons don't have, like, they're the slow, methodical, plotting, endless sea of bodies that eventually grab the map, and the Drukhari are like, I'm in every quarter now, and what are you gonna do about it? So they like benefit from it way more than the Necrons do, right? Yeah.
Yep. And some books, like, I played White Scars for a long time. Oh, at the moment's really good.
Like, yeah.
I don't have anywhere to complain about secondaries. Some armies are going to have great ones. Some armies aren't.
So Sindri is pointing out that he loves the thought of Terminates being awesome, but they just aren't efficient enough for the points. And I want to make it clear. I agree, 100%. I have like 40 painted, ready to rock Terminators for my Grey Knights army. Since 9th Codex hit, I have put none of them on the table that weren't HQs or weren't characters, because I agree, like, they're just, for 42 points, 20 points more than a Strike Marine, you get an invul at 5 up, you gain 1 wound, and
do you get an attack or no?
No, not now. You gain 1 attack if you buy a Paladin, but a Paladin is 47 points each, which actually came down in price. Paladins were more expensive, but they don't get other buffs, so it's like, and they're slower, so your Terminators are also 1 inch slower. So it's like, really, you're paying almost double for a slower model with half again more wounds, and that's it. And Invul, which can't be denied how good an Invul is, any Invul at all, even like look at Sisters. A 6-up is pretty good, but they're also paying 11 points a model. We're paying 42 or 22, or right? Like way different. So I agree entirely. Like if you want to be purely competitive and you want to be eking out as much efficiency and dollars per points, if you will, or like a VP per points as possible per model, Terminators are not your guy. And to add the 10-point hammers on top, that's like, there's a reason that it's usually like, oh, you throw the hammer on like the sergeant, right? You don't make a squad with all hammers.
So here's the funny thing, right? So they get into a contemptor, the 5-man unit, still 5-man. I hadn't shot it at all. They get it all the way across the table into my contemptor, and they failed to kill it.
Yeah, because of that 5 invul, right?
And the -1 damage, right? So
and the -1 damage. That's a great point.
He gets 4 of them through, and I have 1 wound left.
Oh man, that's got to feel real bad.
Yeah, and then I just pop Ultramarines, walk away,
and then shoot the shit out of them. Yeah,
and then shoot them with all the other stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's real bad. Like, it feels like Terminators in 8th were such a linchpin of the Grey Knights army. And like the models are so cool. Like I spent so much time making my like paladins look different than my normal Terminators. And I just kind of did whatever to my strike squads because I'm like, they're just going to sit on backfield objectives. Who cares? And now it's like, no, I want strikes. I want strike squads. I want Dreadknights, who I love, by the way. I know folks hate that model. I love that model. I think it's amazing, and screw the haters. But it's that, interceptors and strikes. Like you want Dreadknights, interceptors and strikes. Dreadknights, interceptors, and strikes. Whatever HQs you want, go nuts. But like, don't right now. It's don't take Terminators. Unfortunately, if they came down 5 points, that might change, but they're not going to. Like strikes are just too good right now, right?
They are incredibly good. That's my list. I'm taking to the team tournament.
That's right. So for everybody who's in the chat, who wasn't there obviously before I started recording, because why would they be? Evan here has actually been tapped to play Grey Knights in 2 weeks, right? In a team tournament.
Yep.
So, like, you got to learn all this stuff too, right?
Yeah, I played in the last 2 days. Well, the last 3 days, I played 7 games of Grey Knights.
That's great.
So
I'm jealous, man. I've played 4 games total since the Codex hit.
They're oppressive, man.
They are really good right now. Yeah.
So,
the only thing
I was playing against Admech, Drukhari. Like,
of course,
the stuff you don't want to play against. So.
You got to play the boogeyman, right?
Yeah. Like the Grey Knights will never beat speed-waaagh. They'll just get vaporized off the table.
Really?
But because you're like a 5-man strike squad to proc the +1 to hit. 1 squad of buggies will kill a 5-man strike squad.
Yeah, I
mean they'll pick up.
There's no involved stuff. Yeah. But I mean, you could get around that by doing what you did with the Deathwatch, where you you can So for those of you who don't know, Grey Knights,
you can.
Yes. So Grey Knights,
you still have to keep half your army on the table.
Yes, by power level, which makes it even more confusing. But so for those of you who don't know, Grey Knights, one of their strengths is almost all of their units, even in 8th, more so now, actually, they have the teleport strike keyword, which allows them to be set up in deep strike for free. So most, not all, but most Grey Knight units can go into deep strike for free. So on those matches that you're playing where, let's say, terrain is very sparse, or speed-waaagh, where you want to hide as many of your easy to kill units as possible. So like Dreadknights now have a 4-up invul. Great. Not easy to kill. They are 13 wounds, much harder to kill than, say, a strike squad, which has no invul. So you can stick all your strike squads into deep strike for free. Assuming you never go over that magical barrier, which is outlined in the core rulebook, where never more than half of your army, by power level, for whatever reason, can be off the table.
And so the thing is, when you look at a Grey Knights list, like my Grey Knight list has a Grandmaster Dreadknight, 3 regular Dreadknights, and the 2 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, with all of that, I still have to keep 1 unit of strikes on the table, or
Okay.
1 unit of interceptors on the table. And
Are
that's
you bringing
all they
Drago?
need. Yeah.
Okay, of course.
I got Drago,
of course you are. Drago's so good right
Captain,
now. Yeah.
Brother Captain, Grandmaster, and then 3 Dreadknights and a bunch of strikes and stuff. But
Okay.
the problem is, I still have to keep 1 of those units on the table, or my Servitors, because you always bring Servitors because they're amazing. They're like the greatest 30-point unit in any Marine book. You still have to leave 1 unit on the table, and that's all it takes is for them to kill 1 unit to proc their +1 to hit, and then you're in trouble.
I heard you. Best 30-point Marine unit. I 100% agree. The dusty Servitor is wildly overlooked a lot of time for what it can do. For 30 points, you're screening your backfield and holding a backfield objective, and for armies like Deathwatch, you're raising the banners or whatever, right? Like, and you're doing that for essentially what it costs for less than 1.5 intercessors.
Yeah, and
that is it's so good.
If and in Marines, whereas if you're taking a Tech Marine anyway, they don't take a slot anymore. So you're not having to waste an elite slot on them.
Oh, that is a fantastic point. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can take them and still take 6 Dreadnoughts. So,
okay.
Or 6 elite slots or whatever.
See?
So.
Probably everybody here just had a learning moment where I forgot that entirely. Like it's a thing you read when you read the data sheet, and then 3 days later when you're making a list, you're just like, oh, it's an elite slot. Who made them an elite slot? That's stupid.
Well, right? And the same thing with company veterans. If you have a captain, you get company veterans without taking a slot.
Yeah.
So they don't have to fill up one of your elite slots.
I think that one's way more well known, but because there are so few Deathwatch lists that don't take a captain. Because who doesn't like reroll ones to hit, right? Like, yeah, you can take the Watchmaster, but like there's an opportunity cost there. You can't give the Watchmaster a jetpack, if that's what you're looking for. So
can't give him the shield. That's the problem, is you can't give him the shield.
Yes, right. Yeah,
if you could
absolutely.
Give him a shield,
oh my God. Yeah. Every time. Yeah. You'd be like,
can't give him a shield.
I'm just going to advance him. It's fine. It doesn't matter if he shoots. He's got a stupid spear gun. He's going to hit. Like, who cares? Just advance him. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, you can't make a regular captain a chapter master.
No, you can't.
They're not Watchmasters. And that's
not in Deathwatch,
the one Deathwatch thing that's like,
yeah,
kind of hurts when you build your list.
Yeah.
Because it's nice when you have a Dreadnought that's in his bottom profile, and you're just like, cool, I'm just going to chapter master him so he hits on 5s re-rolling. It's real good.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing you lose in Deathwatch. You can't do that.
Could I ask you to turn on a light or something? You are slowly turning more and more into a slightly less dark blob, just like surrounded by a dark blob. There we go. Now we're talking. Perfect. Love it. All right. So PC has a couple of questions. He says, why forego a 3rd kill team and instead go with Servitors, Incursors, and Vets? Could you not just go for, or Are they there for utility and blocking only?
And yeah, utility, holding backfill objectives, doing rod. You can do like if a kill team's there to kill things or hold middle objectives.
It's almost like it's in their name.
Those things are there to sit in the back and do backfield things.
Yeah. So we were just talking about how good servitors are. And one of the other things I'd like to point out about them is, at least in my experience, is that like if you pop them down, you spread them out to kind of like cover your backfield from deep strikes, whatever. They're only 4 models. Let's say a opponent does something like uses Veil of Darkness if they're Necrons, or they deep strike some like Death Shroud Terminators if they're Death Guard and they're in your backfield, and then they have to charge or shoot at servitors. Like, to your opponent, that is almost a slap in the face. That feels so bad for them. They, like, in the case of the Necrons, they've just burned a once a game thing that they can use forever. They've then grabbed that HQ and another core unit, which could be, I mean, let's just for like sake of argument, they grab a 10-man immortal unit. They now have 11 units in your backfield, and they shoot all of that, which I'm not sure what the actual points are there, but that's a relic and all of those dudes firing at 30 points of units to drop you off an objective. Or if they're Death Guard, they drop in their Death Shroud Terminators, and they have to now charge your 30-point Servitor unit with their, what is it, 260-point 3-man Death Shroud. And now, great, they hold it. Awesome. Your Death Shroud can't go anywhere if you want to score points. It's almost like, great, have it. You know,
and the thing with things like that, so especially with shooting units, if they're going to deep strike behind you and say they're going to shoot at your Dreadnoughts and then try to charge onto the objective, if they fail, all you do is advance your Servitors 1.1 inches away from their unit so they can't move anywhere on their next turn, and then put another unit on the objective 12.1 inches away from where their guys are right now, and they can never get the objective the next turn either.
Okay. This is going to be, I can tell, I can smell it in the air. This is going to be a learning moment. Can you walk me through that again?
Okay, so say you take your 10-man Immortal Blob, and we'll use Destroyers for Necrons because they're a better shooting unit, right? So you're going to take your 5-man Destroyer unit and deep strike it behind. Well, Destroyers wouldn't work because they have fly. Something without fly. Something good shooting without fly. Right. They're going to deep strike behind you to shoot at you. Okay. They're going to shoot at your Dreadnoughts and try to kill them, and then try to charge and kill your Servitors, because most things can kill 4 Servitors. And
100%. Yeah.
Like
even
you could kill with 10 Guardsmen could kill. Servitors in combat, right?
90% of the time.
They're going to try to charge onto the objective. Okay. So if you fail your charge, because it's a 9, right? You make, what is it? It's like you make 2 out of 7 9-inch charges or something is the math. It's
so with a reroll, you have a little over, I think it's a 54% chance with a reroll, with no other modifiers.
So the 50% of the time that you fail, right, you're just sitting there in my backfield.
Yep.
Right?
I
can take 4 Servitors and advance them and move, so I am 1.1 inches away from your models, right, directly in front of them.
Yeah.
So you can't move through me. That's against the rules.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right? So you're stuck sitting there. Yeah. And then I'm going to put a unit on the very far edge of 3 inches of my objective, more than 12 inches away from your guys.
So they can't be charged.
So you can't shoot the Servitors and charge what's there next. You can shoot the Servitors and be able to move the next turn, but I'm still safe for 1 more turn from you.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh my God, that is so good. Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay.
Because most people won't shoot your Servitors. They'll deep strike behind you, shoot something else, and then charge the Servitors.
Yeah, that's great. So to reiterate, just to make sure that I've got it, okay? So they drop in their whatever unit, okay? They want to shoot the Servitors, or shoot something else, charge the Servitors. Charge fails. You then wander them up in their face, like this, and you make it so that they're effectively blocked in. Hopefully you're still stringing one guy back to like hold the actual spot. Well, or actually it doesn't matter because you know you're going to lose it anyway, right?
No. So you're going to use the whole unit to block, and you're going to put something else on the objective.
Oh, I see.
As far away from.
So you're going to swing something back in, grab it, hold it, and that way, okay, this is really starting to make even more sense. All right. So you're effectively using your Servitors as like shitty linebackers, and you're saying you have to get rid of us even though we're worth 30 points and we have a 6-up save or whatever, right? So you have to waste some amount of something, right? So if it's 20-man warrior blob, which would be hilarious, but let's say they have to say, okay, 5 of them are going to actually shoot at the Servitors while 15 of them fire at something else. Maybe that works out for them, maybe it doesn't, but they have to at least make that decision, right? You have forced them to make that choice, and
you forced it so that whatever is holding the objective now is more than 12 inches away from them,
so they can never charge it. Right, exactly. So remember, even if you are fighting against a unit that say has a 3d6 on their charge, they can never declare a charge that is more than 12 inches away. That is in the core rulebook. You can never, ever, ever declare a charge against anything that is more than 12 inches away. And not to say that I'm the most like experienced player ever, but as far as I know, there is nothing in any codex anywhere that has a gotcha to that rule. If you are beyond 12 inches, you cannot even be declared as a charge. So you sneak in there, you switch around, you throw like part of your bikers, like maybe like
normally if it's field objectives, it's one of my dreadnoughts is going to walk over and hold it.
Yoink, just
be like, I'm just going to touch this now.
Yeah, okay.
And still, because if you look at a dreadnought's 90 mil base plus 6 inches, plus a captain's 40 mil base, plus 6 inches, plus a dreadnought's 90 mil base,
you're just starting to
normally
get
go
enormous,
all the way across your whole backfield with 2 Redemptors.
So. Yeah, it starts to get pretty big. That's fantastic. That is an piece of like little trivia. Because I know for me, again, newer player, like if I leave things around to die, I feel bad. Even if it is a 30-point unit, like I want to make my enemy pay for everything. And the more I play, and the more I realize like that's not how the game is won. Right? Like you have to trade things. And a 30-point trade for a 20-man warrior blob, which is what, 180 something points? No, it's
a lot.
It's actually more than that. Yeah, they're like
300 points for 20 warriors.
Yeah, or a 3-man death shroud. Like, yes, those servitors are not going to make it through combat. Like, it's just not happening, right? But if you can stall them for one more turn, that's one more turn that you score. And if that turn goes from a hold 1, hold 2 to a hold 1, hold 2, hold more, those 30-point servitors gave their lives, their lobotomized, worthless lives for 5 points. That's amazing. Like there are few units in the game that are gonna trade that efficiently, because like what are they gonna do? So they're gonna charge, they're gonna pile in as much as they can, and they're gonna consolidate, and they're still gonna not be on the objective. And if they do, they're on the objective with what is, likely. Oh no, that's right. You didn't take rights of war.
Yeah.
So never mind. So that sweet point that I was gonna make is actually not true. But even so, like you can't really go from a corner of a map even with that extra 6 inches of movement from a perfect pile-in and a perfect consolidate, probably not going to land you on an objective. So, excellent point. I love it.
And you're basically just delaying whatever's going to happen for one more turn, because you're going to want to shoot whatever's in your backfield anyway. But if you can shoot it next turn instead of this turn, why?
Right, but like that's kind of what I'm trying to say. It's like efficiency-wise, right? We know the game's only 5 rounds.
Yep.
If you can delay anything for 1 round, anything the enemy can do that you know is an advantage to the enemy, if you can delay that for 1 turn, why wouldn't you?
Yep.
So if you can shove a 30-point unit in their face to guarantee that even at the worst case, you're going to score 5 points, not 10 maybe, but 5, why wouldn't you do that? That's an amazing trade. Like, that's not in their favor in any way.
Yep. And that's why I said they're one of the best units in the whole Space Marine Codex.
Yeah. So thank you very much, PC, for that amazing question. Because I never thought of that ever. Like, mind blown. That is going to win you games. Like, that clutch move right there is gonna win you games. Like, that's gonna make some neckbeard somewhere so mad that they're gonna call over a TO and be told that no, that's totally legal. Right? Like, that's good stuff. Anyway, drawing it way back now. Grey Knights. I don't even think we got into how you really. He got this. Like, he won first game or first turn.
Killed one Redemptor, did a bunch of damage to another, but didn't kill it. And after that, I picked up both Dreadknights and everything he threw on the middle objectives on turn 1, because I was able to move out my bike squads and the shotguns and everything. Just shotguns are so good at killing Strike Marines and Grey Knights that I picked up all of his. The defensively is so good.
Yeah, so actually, defensively, a strike squad has an incursor or a Deathwatch veteran or a tactical Marines normal stat block. So anything that works good against Marines is going to work good against the strike squads, which have no invul at all.
Yep. And so on one side, he had put 5 strikes and 5 interceptors on an objective. And so I put one of my kill teams in tactical doctrine with the strat. And so the shotguns picked up one whole 5-man unit.
The 2 CP strat?
No, there's the 1 CP strat for Deathwatch to put it into any. You can put any unit into any doctrine for 1 CP.
Oh my god, I did not. Do you remember what it's called? I don't want to spend a whole bunch of
there's a 1 CP
time, but like
Deathwatch book to put any unit in any one doctrine you want.
That is amazing, and I wish that I'd known about this in other games. That one skipped my mind entirely.
Normally, everyone uses it for Dev Doctrine because you can just Dev Doctrine one of your Contemptors every turn. But I was already in Dev Doctrine turn 1, so I used it for Tactical Doctrine for my one kill team, so I could really pick up that one side.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because
this doesn't require a Watchmaster or something. I know there is the 2 CP strat that requires a Watchmaster to switch what your battlefield roll to like reroll 1s against is, but this is just 1 CP to just switch any one unit into any other doctrine at any time.
Yep.
Oh my god, that is so good. God, we are so good. Deathwatch is so good, guys.
There's so much stuff in that book. It's so overlooked. But yeah, so I picked up one whole side with just my kill team, and then I picked up the 2 Dreadknights with the 3 Volkite Contemptors, and then it was
over.
And then it was over. He just threw stuff out on the objectives every turn to try to get hold, and I would just kill it. So it wasn't a good game. It was a very poorly played game on my opponent's part, but he learned a lot.
Right, which is like, that's the thing. Like, that's honestly what keeps me coming to this game, is like, as long as I can play better every single game, I feel like I haven't really lost, right? Like, if you get, like, if John Lennon swung by my house and just absolutely, like, pulverized me, which he 100% would, and there's nothing I could ever do. But, like, as long as he and I talked through exactly what I did wrong, and he walked out of there, I'd feel like that was great. And I can feel that way against any opponent that that I play, where, like, I think that if you were playing, like, basketball and LeBron James just kind of shows up and schools you, right? Like, you know, you're so far behind the curve at that point. Even if he is a super nice guy, you know, he can't say, like, oh, well, you jigged left when you should have gone right, or what. I don't know. I'm trying to use a sports analogy. I'm not a sports guy, so this is, like, that's on me. But I don't know. I just feel like it's not, like, there's a lot fewer teaching moments in a game that goes fast, like basketball, versus a game that you know, mostly goes slow, like Warhammer, where they can explain, like, hey, if you towed out on that, like, objective, and instead of pulling the front guy, you pulled the back guy, that could have made you 5 points. Like, that's a teaching moment. That's like, I made a mistake, and you just told me exactly what I did wrong, and now I'll never make that mistake again.
And I always try to talk to my opponents, because when I play Warhammer, I play really, really fast. So I finish most of my games with, like, an hour left at a tournament.
That's beautiful.
So I always try to sit and talk with my opponent about, like, hey, what would I have done better? And, like, I tell them the same thing, like, hey, I would have done this, or I would have done that, or maybe if you tried this instead. Because there are things like, that's how I learned the trick against the speed-waaagh when I played against my buddy RT before. He's like, why don't you just reserve your whole army except for the dreadnoughts? And I was like, that's fucking brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? And I'm like, I know now for next time I play this,
oh my god,
this is exactly how I do it.
What's great now is you saying that here at this moment. You even told your opponent, who said, this is the one army I didn't want to play. You actually said, well, I've learned a lot. And then the one thing that you learned, you're like, everything's going to Deep Strike. Everything into the teleportarium. Let's go. That's amazing.
And, like, for me, I always tell my opponent at the end, like, when we're talking about stuff, all I ever want is for them to be a better player.
Right, and that makes the games better. Thank you.
The better my opponents are, the more fun it is for me. Because 100%. It's cool to go out. It's cool to go out and win all the time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, everyone likes to win.
It's more fun to play good games all the time, because I would rather win 60 to 59 than win 90 to 20.
Oh man, you are, like, preaching. You are preaching to the choir, brother. Like, my god, the best games I've ever had is when, like, somebody, it doesn't even have to be me, when they win by, I mean, at a tournament I'd probably feel different, but, like, if I'm playing a friend, like, I had a game, I was playing Grey Knights, he was playing, I think he was playing Flesh Terrors. This was 8th edition Grey Knights, by the way, and I had just, like, pegged him back into a corner. I'd gotten real lucky with some rolls, and he'd kind of misplayed a bit, and I, like, had my Napoleon hat on or whatever. Anyway, it was great. It was super close. I backed him into one objective. I knew I needed to take it to win solidly. I push up, win my charge, get my like Terminators on there, and I have the opportunity to move another Terminator up like a quarter of an inch to be on the objective, and I didn't. So I kept, like, 2 on there. And then when he piled in with one more intercessor. And so I had 2 dudes on there with OBSEC, and he had 3. And he won the game by, like, 2 points. And that, like, he did one thing. He moved one guy just a fraction of an inch. And he didn't do, like, that, you've fallen into my trap card thing. But just, I misplayed. He played well. He won the game. I still think about it to this day, when I fall asleep, smack myself in the face. I'll never make that mistake again. But like, that game was so close the whole way through. It was a nail biter. It was fun. Right? It was fun. That's what made the game good. If it was a game where I won 97 to 13 or whatever, like, yeah, I won. I outplayed him. That's great, whatever. But it's not a game that would be memorable. It's not a game that would be fun. It's not a game that would have probably taught either of us anything. I just outplayed him.
Yeah, and like I said, that's all I ever want to do is make better players, because it makes the game more fun.
Bingo. God, that's so true. I've lost whole weekends where I'm just like taking a new player and I'm like, I have a rare weekend to play and I could play 3-4 games, but instead I'm going to take you and sit you down. Everyone else is playing and I'm going to run you through the game. And I'm going to bring in a new player and I'm going to give you this little piece of crack and I hope that you keep coming back, because in the long run, it's going to pay off, right? I can get one more player interested, and then in 6 months, 9 months, they're like going to probably be at the same level I am, because I'm not that good. I haven't played that much, probably because I keep doing this, where I keep bringing in new players, right? And then they're going to teach me stuff, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could bring more new players in the game, but I live in kind of a small town.
Yeah,
so
you did say that.
Like,
yeah,
we don't get there's not a lot of interest in the game because it's kind of a small community.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean,
that's why I said I live an hour and a half away from Vegas, so we just drive down to play RTTs, because
that's beautiful.
It's not a big deal.
Like so I live in Portland. And I'm like 2.5 hours from Seattle. So I've got these two big metropolitan areas that are starting to open up and have more games. And it's hard for me to be like, well, why wouldn't I go to a tournament? Like, my wife works nights and I don't have kids. So it's not like she's going to be around when I'm gone anyway.
Yeah.
I just gotta find somebody to take care of the dog.
I don't get to travel and play as many big tournaments as I would like, because I do have kids. So I live that life, but I still try to make it out to at least one GT every month is normally like my goal.
So that's awesome. And you had this talk with your wife, I assume, or your partner, or
yeah, and she knows it keeps me out of trouble, right? Like, I could be doing all kinds of crazy things with my time and spending all kinds of money, but instead
So I've been married 9 years next month, and I've been LARPing, actually live action role playing, most of the time that we've been together, which is like 9 years. And, when we started dating, it was very clear that, like, no, I was going to bail for a whole weekend, and I might bail for like 3 weekends in a month. And she is like, this is not going to work for me, right? Like, you can't do that. And so we very quickly came to an agreement on how much time, like, I was going to just bounce, right? And it's so cool to me. Like, it was healthy. It wasn't an aggressive discussion or whatever, but it's held true to this day, where I can't bounce to go LARP. Not that I have for the last almost 2 years now, but I can't bounce to go LARP for more than a month. Once a month, which is the same thing you have. You can't leave for a weekend for more than
I can't leave every weekend, right? Like, I can leave one weekend a month to go play and hang out with my friends. And but as far as like playing a game at my house, she's like, if you're here and you're fulfilling all your responsibilities, I don't care when they come over and when you play, like,
which is great.
Cool.
That's so, like, I don't think a lot of Warhammer podcasts or whatever this is talk about how important it is to have a healthy relationship with whomever you're with your partner. Like, it's, I think we always like saying, practice more and we'll practice more, and we're all like, we've always got the latest metadata, and we always want you to go buy like that latest model and try it at the latest tournament. But it's like, really, you have to take everything into moderation. Everything needs to go into perspective, and you need to make the decision that you want to make on like how much of your life is Warhammer.
Well,
how much of your life is your family?
Right. Like, I was playing AdMech really competitively before the book came out. Like, there wasn't a lot of AdMech players playing old AdMech.
I mean, there were, and you just bought a bunch of those damn robots, you jerks.
I'm talking about people. Okay. Well, at least in like the like GTs I went, I never saw another AdMech player ever.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was playing old AdMech, and the new book came out, and I literally had like 10 models from my army that I could use that are good in the new AdMech.
Yeah, that's
I'm
rough.
I'm like, babe, I'm not going to go out and spend $1,000 and buy a new army. So
even if you can find them.
For me, it was, well, this Deathwatch army, I literally had to buy or print some Volkite arms for my Contemptors.
My man. Right? Yeah.
And that was it.
I 3D printed a lot of stuff.
Everything else in my army, I already owned. I already owned 3 Redemptors. I already owned Incursors. I already owned bikes. I have like 200 tactical Marines. So I was like, oh, I got to find some shotguns for these guys. But other than that, like, I didn't have to buy anything to build this list, because it's stuff that most Marine players already own.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the benefits of just playing Space Marines, right?
Yeah.
It's like, they release new models like heavy intercessors, they're eradicators or whatever. But eventually, like, everything goes through a cycle, right? So, next edition eradicators might be garbage, but in 10th, they might be good again.
Yep.
Like, and if you're really into this hobby, you're going to be around in 6 years, which I think the average is 3 years per version.
Lately, yeah.
We're already nearly at that point in 9th, and not everybody has their codex yet, so I think 9th might be the outlier. But, like, that's the average, is about 3 years. So, okay. I'm sorry. I love this. This is great. Like, we are talking about a whole bunch of, like, really important stuff, like, that is for you as a human being. Like, how are you going to manage your time, and, and your money, and how are you going to deal with your relationships? But so you effectively just trounced Grey Knights. It sounded like they played very aggressively, which is, again, a hole I fall into. But then you went into Imperial Knights. So tell us. And this is, so you play, like, you play them, you own them, so you know what they can do. How did it go?
This player is the top Imperial Knights player in ITC last year, and he was top Chaos Knights player the year before. So this is my good buddy Adam. We play all the time. Every RTT, we almost always end up top table, me and him playing against each other. So we've played this match 1,000 times over. And this is gonna be good. And we roll the pick sides. I win the roll, so I'm like, sweet, I want the forest, bro. He's like, yes, sucks. And then we deploy our armies and stuff, and we roll, and we know whoever wins the roll wins the game.
It's that binary, huh?
100% of the time, whoever wins the roll to go first wins the game.
Okay, so is it because you both have so much damn firepower?
Yes.
That you're going to remove a significant enough amount of their pointage at the end of turn 1 that it doesn't effectively matter. So, like, correct. If you go first, you're going to drop one of his big knights.
So normally in my first turn, when we played this matchup before, I can kill his Castellan and either kill or almost kill one Megara.
So that's 470 points, I think, base for a Castellan.
No, Castellan's 680.
Oh, okay. My bad. Wrong night.
A Megara's 470.
Okay, so, I probably had them switch.
Yeah. So in this game, on my top of 1, I killed the Castellan and killed the Megara and almost killed a Warglaive.
In turn 1.
on my top of 1. Yeah.
Was it over? Like, did he just say it's over after that?
At that point, it's over.
Oh my god! At turn 1, he didn't even play, and he's like, "I concede," or.
Well, we played it out for points. But
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like the game is over. There is no winning. Right. So we proceeded to play best 2 out of 3. Because it only taken about 30 minutes of time, and we had 3 hours. So we played best 2 out of 3. And I got first in 2 of the 3 games, and he got first in 1 of the games. The game he got first in, he picked up 3 contemptors, just like that.
Okay, but even then, like, so in 1 turn you pick up over 1,000 points.
Over 1,000 points.
And in 1 turn he picks up 450 points. Because a relic contemptor is 150, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 targets, so he's got to, like, spread, and there's less efficiency every time you spread targets and blah, 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 blah. But, like, you know, this is an experienced Knights player. He knows exactly what his weapons can do onto what types of defensive stat lines, and he still was only picking up 450 points.
I have the advantage. I get the forest.
Okay.
Right. So the forest offsets it a little bit, right? If I don't get a forest, then it's
16% on their hits. Like, that's 16% fewer hits. So
yeah.
Like, again, it's that math. It's just like, it's a math game. I mean, it's a luck game, sorta. It's really a math game.
I can still hide, right? I can hide my kill teams. I
Small
can
models,
hide some.
yeah.
I can't hide the Dreadnoughts, but I can hide some stuff. So I will score points. Like, if I lose, I might lose and get 50. Whereas if he loses, he's getting 7.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
10.
Yeah, if you kill one of his big knights, like
he's not getting any points.
Yeah,
so.
He's up. Gosh, and it's like, I just thought about the fact that, like, okay, if you have a 660 point knight, okay, you have 5 turns a game. You're expecting that knight to do at least its points value worth of stuff, at least for the first few turns.
Oh, and it will, right? So the Castellan.
Yeah, it's a great, like, that's a great data sheet. It should be. It's 660 points.
It can do so much damage. The thing is, it still can only shoot effectively three things a turn.
Yeah.
Right? If you're within 12, you shoot your melta-guns too. That's great. But for the most part, it shoots 3 things a turn.
That's an excellent point.
3 things a turn.
Another teaching moment. I was recently playing Grey Knights against Chaos Space Marines, and my buddy Levi, he loves his Iron Warriors, and we played 2 games. And turn 1, you know, he's like, give me everything the new Grey Knights Codex has. So I gave him the, like, Word of Power or Wombo combo on the top of Tide of a Convergence. I got in a group of like 8, I think it was, Interceptors. They did 20 mortal wounds, 7 wounds, and then there was 1 wound done to that guy in shooting previously and just, like, picked it up. 525 points. It didn't get to do shit at all. Like, I just walked up on it and killed it. I think it was turn 2, so I think it wandered forward, shot some stuff, didn't do much, and then died. But our second game, he was like, okay, I know what your Wombo combo does now, so I'm going to wander this 525 point model up, but I've also got all these other threats. Again, it kind of goes back to that, like, threat overload. And I took the bait. I spread myself too thin. Like, I needed to either decide to ignore the damn thing or kill the damn thing. Because he had so many other things. He had, like, Mauler Fiends, and he had Disco Lords, and he had all these things that I had to actually kill. And he had, like, a bunch of cultists and some stuff, but those are effectively ignorable. I had to take care of these other threats, and I decided to spread myself too thin. And I got completely jacked and wrecked, and he won it by 30 points, I think. Where our previous game was like 87-17 or something. So what?
Threat overload is a real thing in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I see 660 points of model, it's like, how do you make that decision? Like, you're a Knights player, you know how that army plays, and now you're a Deathwatch player and you're faced with it. Do you say, okay, I can ignore that 660 points, or do you say I can absolutely 100% of the time in no way ignore that 660 points?
It depends on the list you're playing.
Even though it can only kill three units a turn, right? It's like what it shoots at is going to die, right?
It depends what you're playing, right? Like if you're playing Drukhari, it's not, the other things are more scary than that knight. Because yes, that knight will kill 3 things,
but you've got so many things that
the other knights might kill 5 things in a turn because they have more guns and their melee is better.
Okay.
Because the Castellan's melee is trash compared to the other knights.
And a Castellan's melee is trash compared to
the
Incubi,
and
but everybody's melee is trash compared to Incubi. So
I don't know about that. Incubi is.
It's supposed to be a joke, man. You're supposed to laugh and be like, "Oh, you're right," and then we go on to the next topic.
Blade Guard are better. But that's the Marines.
Blade Guard are very good. Yeah. Oh my God, Blade Guard are very good. Yeah.
So the night game was very uninteresting, and it's literally just a roll to see who goes first. And like I said, me and Adam played it.
So counterpoint, it's uninteresting in a single matchup.
Yes.
Right? Like if that was a guy you didn't know, and you're like, "Hey, my name's Evan. Nice to meet you. Oh, I won first. You've lost half your army. See you later." That would be different than if you're playing a friend of yours, which you did, and so you just kind of set back up and you played again, and then you like set back up and you played again. Was that worth your time for you, or were you just like, I like this guy, I want to roll dice with him, and let's have a great time?
It's one of those things where if you finish a tournament and you have 2.5 hours left, you're like, well, what are we gonna do for the next 2.5 hours?
But okay, so I don't know you well. I don't know if you drink, but like you guys could have gone down to the bar and had a drink with 2.5 hours. I mean, even if you guys didn't drink to excess or whatever, you could have had a beer and a burger. And I don't know what time it was either. You guys might have like just eaten. I don't know, but
so for me, I play these tournaments and I have to drive an hour and a half back home to Utah.
Yeah.
From Vegas. So it's not that I don't drink, but it's, if I have to drive an hour and a half, I'm not even going to have one beer because that's just my personality. So.
No, that's completely fair. Like if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it.
For us,
don't drink and drive.
I said, we've played so many games that it's just fun for us to just mess around, and then we still have an hour and a half left after that, and we go dick around with the TO and sit there and after that, we know at that point that I'm playing the winner of the top table, right? Because I'm currently in 4th in the event. So knowing that I'm playing the winner of the top table, what do we do at that point? We go kick up chairs at the top table and scope out the competition for the next round.
That's a good point.
He sits there with me, having helped me build my list, having gone through things with me, learning all this stuff, so we can watch the top players play and be like,
yep.
Hey,
and that way
he's gonna play like this.
Yeah, buddy. You're doing reconnaissance.
Yep.
Like I just said. Yeah, like you're just scoping out like, hey, like what's his list like? How's he play? What are our strengths? What are his weaknesses? Yeah. I get that.
We were real sad because our other buddy, so me and Adam and our other buddy Aurelio, was in 2nd place at the time, playing at the top table, and he ended up losing, so I didn't get to play him. But he was playing Grey Knights, and we saw how that matchup went already once, so that's kind of what I was hoping for. But
Yeah, it really, like, not to go too far off here, but like Grey Knights, right? Like I'm watching their meta with a like very closely right now. I'm totally hawk-eyed on it, but like the thing is the Dreadknights are effectively our only anti-tank. And so I'm almost wondering if you might see Deathwatch-ish style lists where you're going to see, 2 Grandmaster Dreadknights and 3 Nemesis Dreadknights just almost become standard as we have with Deathwatch. Because it's the only way that we can get reliable and consistent long-range anti-tank to deal with stuff like Knights, or that Greater Brass Scorpion, or a Repulsor Executioner, or you see that Iron Hands are actually doing very well in the meta right now, and they generally bring like a Gladiator Reaper and a whole bunch of Dreadknights, or Dreadnoughts, and you have to do something about them, right? And the only way you can reliably do that is you either reach up and touch them, where now you're in combat with a bunch of arguably amazing melee units, but they have 2 damage weapons, versus a Dreadnought with -1 damage.
Yeah.
Or you can roll up with a Dreadnought or a Dreadknight with 2 damage weapons at range, or 1 2 damage weapon at range. You stick a psychic power on the target for 1 extra damage. Now you're still doing that 2 damage, which means you're more efficient. And it's almost like to deal with these tilt lists or other vehicle heavy or Dreadnought heavy lists, like that Space Wolves list sounds like a nightmare for my Grey Knights to ever touch. It's like you almost have to just bring the most amount of Dreadknights you possibly can, which is effectively 5, unless you want to pay an additional 2 CP premium to bring a 6th, which gives you 3 Nemesis Dreadknight, or 3 Grandmaster Dreadknights and 3 Nemesis Dreadknights. And I don't think we'll ever see that, because those 2 CP are so precious. But it really makes you wonder, like, how are they going to deal with those like tilt lists? And because knights are scary, and they should be for like how much they cost, right?
It all comes down to matchups, though. At the end of the day, in a tournament, you can go to a tournament and go 0-5 because you played the 5 hard counters to your list in a row, and
that's fair.
Just get stomped every game, right? Or you can go, like I said, my hardest matchup was Space Wolves and Drukhari. Those are the 2 hardest matchups for me.
Drukhari? Really?
Well, Drukhari is a
so
tough
we're
matchup.
not there yet.
Yeah.
If you want to go over some generalities, please do. But when we get to your actual matchup, that's when we should like dig deep, right? Like termites into my foundation. That's when we should dig deep.
The Knights game is relatively uninteresting. It's literally just shooting each other.
You have so much. You have so much of the stuff that like totally counters them.
Yeah.
I mean, well, not like maybe not totally, but you have strength 9 shooting, so you're gonna wound a knight on 3s. Yep. You can reroll 1, so it's not that scary if you do overcharge. And if you take damage, you have a Techmarine right there to like repair it. So for you, it's a lot less awful, right? Where if you're a Grey Knight and you're like, hey, I've charged them, I brought halberds, still wounding on 5s, right? Like,
yeah,
and like, yeah, you like most of those squads can like re-roll all their wounds, but like you're still wounding on 5s. So at the best, you're getting half your wounds through. They're 2 damage apiece, which right now Knights still actually take full damage. So if it's a fully I think the math was done, and if it's a fully buffed 5-man Grey Knight Strike Squad from Rapiers with Words of a Power in the Tides of Convergence with their strat and their power on them, they can actually kill a knight, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about the fact that that's a 110-point unit. But there's also a lot of opportunity cost there. Like,
but when you think about this.
Yeah.
175-point 5-man Blade Guard unit in White Scars with Kasaro Khan standing behind him kills the knight in one turn.
Yeah. Like,
right?
Like guaranteed or just like on average?
I've never had them not fail to do it, and I've done it probably 10 times.
And that's like, what, 28 wounds for a knight,
24.
you're thinking?
24.
Okay.
24.
So 24. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it might
there
be
are units that just do it.
Yeah.
That's just what they do. And
yeah, and it might be like, I hope that I get some cross-play here where some Green Knights players also watch this, because I love both factions so much. But, you know, it might be that we just have to be really careful playing into Knights and Sisters. Because they get those crazy free denies, and depending on their order, that's going to go off a third of the time. You know, like, that could really mess with our efficiency. Unfortunately, Green Knights aren't like AdMech, where they just target their units with an undeniable buff, you know, 7 times in one turn for an unkillable brick of 20 dudes. But no, we get to be denied and like possibly perils, and or our like litany just doesn't go off, or I guess we all can't be like AdMech.
I have yet to lose to AdMech with either Deathwatch or Grey Knights. So
really, so yeah. I gotta preface all of this with, it's what I see in like top table bat reps. If I'm completely honest, I have a AdMech player friend, but he plays very non-competitive. He's got an 8th edition army that was semi-competitive that he's buffed up with like dune crawlers and stuff, but I don't have anybody in my local area, at least that I know of, who plays the like Lucius 120 Rangers, you know, 9 damn laser chickens and their HQ. Like, I haven't actually fought that. I have no idea how well I do against that.
I've played against the Lucius version twice and the Mars version once.
Any of the Metallica version?
Just with the Deathwatch. I've played against those. I've played those 3 games, all against very good players, and not one time has it turned out well for the AdMech.
Interesting. There was, if you've got the time, Fred Fortman at the Charity Hammer Prep GT won against AdMech. It was pre nerf AdMech. And he had a very interesting strategy that came down to, again, what we were saying earlier, terrain. Yeah. Like, he got very, very lucky that this table had 2 big obscuring line of sight blocking pieces of terrain that was on the effectively the opponent's side. It was a 5 objective mission, so he could hold 3 and they could hold 2. And then at the end of like turn 3, they're like, all right, you're not gonna move up on me and we're not gonna move up on you, so let's just count this out. Okay, you win. End of game.
I've played games like that where
yeah,
you get to the point in a game and it's like, cool, all I have to do is sit here. So you can either come out and try to score points, or I just win.
Yeah. Which is the way Dark Angels just plays the game.
Yep. They don't even care.
Yeah. Like, that's their game plan. Yeah.
I get 80 points. I get my 80 points. And if you can score more than 80 points, you win.
Yep.
That's basically how they play the game.
Ignore me, please.
No, that's they're I don't. That's one game I don't like to play.
What? It's not fun. It's like their armies would still be good, but their secondaries make them like very good. You know what I mean? Like their army is still good. They have a lot of strengths. They have that like Raven Wing that's very fast. You got Melta, so they can like deal with those big targets, you know, but then they get like 3 secondaries is basically like if you don't move, you score like 90 points. Yep. I hope you painted your army. Because that's 100 points, right? Like silly. I'm kind of glad that there are so many mobile armies that punish them anyway, and that way they're not just sitting on the top. Because for a while there, in the pre-Drukhari meta, I don't know if anybody remembers that, because the Drukhari and AdMech meta felt so overwhelming for so long now. But there was actually a point in time where like it's like, oh, the top 3 of this tournament were Dark Angels. like the 2 top of the 3 are just Dark Angels. And think about that mirror matchup. Like we both waddle up and we grab our 3 and now just gonna sit here.
Whoever goes second wins in that matchup.
Yeah. Okay, great. I get the score at the end of the match. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's who wins every time.
Yeah. No, I know. This one is like, it's like, that's not an interesting game, right? Like, there are people who talk about trying to, like, maybe televise Warhammer in some way or, like, make it a more mainstream thing. Like, StarCraft 2 for a while there was, like, getting on the edge, that, like, cusp where, like, folks would just tune in to watch it even though they hadn't really played it before. But like Warhammer is so much more in depth. I can't imagine that anybody would ever want to watch. Like, again, I don't know a lot about the game. Right, exactly. Or like, okay, I don't know a lot about sports ball, as I reiterated at the beginning of this. Imagine a soccer match where neither team cross the middle. They just sit at the end of their field, and they know if they hold out for whatever the multiple hours the game is, that they're going to score maximum points. And then all they have to do is wait for the other player to get so desperate that they have to try to do a Hail Mary play to score 1 more point. Right? Like, who's going to watch that soccer game? Brazil is not going to watch that soccer game. And they'll watch every soccer game. You know? Like, that sounds boring as hell. Now imagine playing that soccer game.
See, the reason that I think that Warhammer could never go like that, like to a streamed game, there's 2 of them. The first one is there's in a highly competitive setting, there's too many games where it's just turn 1, the game is over. Like, there's too many matchups where it's just here's 10 minutes of the game and it's over, and that's okay. You know, you still play for 3 hours, but in all reality, at the end of turn 1, the game is already over. And the other thing is there's too many like rules mistakes.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Yeah,
that like unless you have an active judge, like normally when you play the top table at a GT,
except you would need multiple active judges because the game is so complicated.
Yeah,
that one active judge is everything. Exactly is still not gonna make it 100% game. Like, like you're gonna have 2 or 3 like refs there for the 2 players.
Yep,
and they're gonna be like, whoa, 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 you can't do that. Or actually, Kevin, that's 2 CP or whatever, right? Here's your codex.
There's so many times where like if I'm playing at a table, I'm like, because I'm not the most rules knowledgeable. I don't get to play.
Dude, the game is so complicated. Like I don't get to play that guy.
Army. And I always ask my opponent, I'm like, hey, how does this work? And then I'd be like, oh, it works like this. And most of the time I just believe them.
Yeah.
Right? Or
which is a game.
Like, hey, how does this work? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, hey, judge, how does this work? Because I don't want to look it up. You know.
It's also a game of trust, though.
Yep.
Like, it 100% is. And if you really want to be that guy, like Deathwatch is kind of a niche faction. If you really wanted to say, and I've done this by accident, because I mixed up the Xenos like chapter reroll thing. I was playing a friend who played Eldari, and I was like, no, I get to reroll all misses in combat. Like, and it's not that I was trying to cheat, I just completely messed up that rule. It's not all of them, it's just ones.
Yep.
And so I was like just smoking him in close combat. And no, I'm sorry. I thought it was you get a +1 to hit, not reroll ones. So I was hitting on 2s, but I had a captain in range, so I was rerolling 1. So I was effectively just hitting all the time. And he's like, yeah, man, this like faction is really good against Xenos. I'm like, yeah, man, we are. Turns out I cheated. Whoops. I didn't mean to. It's just an accident. I misread the rule, and then I actually play Xenos so rarely that when I did, I'm like, this is how it works, and I know that's true. Turns out it wasn't true.
There was one other Deathwatch player at the event, and we were kind of talking a couple times throughout the event about the more and more Xenos codexes that come out and are good, because they will be, the better Deathwatch become.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I've thought that too. Yeah. It's a great point.
Because every book that comes out is generally viable. So when Tau start coming out, when Tiernan's new book comes out, all that kind of stuff, then it just gets more and more and more. When everyone knows when Craft World Codex comes out, it's going to be real good because they're always real good.
Right. So you played Joel Wilson, or you were talking to Joel Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, so Joel played the other Deathwatch player, and because this is a Deathwatch stream, I'll go over his list real quick. So he brought a Calexis assassin, a librarian with jump pack with premorphic resonance, fortified with contempt, the beacon Angelus. He brought a watchmaster with the tome. He brought 4 Proteus kill teams. It looks like most of them were the same, with some Terminators, some Cyclone missile launchers, Vanguard vets with storm shields, and then he had one that was a 5-man of just storm shields and a bunch of bikers, and Vanguard vets. So he clearly split combat squad of them, and Apothecary with the Vorkin pattern Auspicator, and then 2 Eliminator squads. So a condensed list versus yours, a lot fewer entries, but very different in how that would play for sure.
And he still went 3-2.
Yeah, he actually, that's a great point. Let me actually look that up directly. Joel Wilson went 3-2. And all his winning games were 99, 94, and 82. So he was doing real well.
Yeah, his last game he had to play against Adam, who was the night player that I beat in round 4. And
he lost that 14 points.
He had a real bad game.
Well, he has no anti-tank.
Well, he has like 12 Cyclone missile launchers or something. But
he had a few. I don't think he had 12. I think he had 3.
Yeah, I think every
12
unit has 3.
So he has 3 Proteus kill teams, each one with 1 Cyclone. So he's got. I'm looking at BCP. I don't know.
It looked like he had a lot more. I don't know.
I'm sorry. No, I misread that. That's my bad. So each squad had 3.
Yeah.
So each squad was firing. Was it 9 or 6?
They fired 2. Yeah. 6.
So each squad was firing 6. So that's potentially 18. Yeah. So that's on me. He did it in a I don't know. I'm not gonna make it his fault. It's my fault. like, yeah. So lots of Cyclone missile launchers, which I love, by the way. I've got most of my Terminators actually have them. But secret, I magnetize almost everything.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I can't not in this army. Like, you have 40 weapon options for one Terminator. You would be, I would need my entire office just to fill with Terminators if I wanted every weapon option, which my wife would love.
I magnetized 10 Centurions
Uh-huh.
with every single weapon option. It took 488 magnets to magnetize 10 Centurions.
That's a good man.
They weren't even for me. They were for my friend. So, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of magnets.
I'm getting ready to do.
It's a good thing they're cheap.
60 Grey Knights.
Oh no! So I don't know why. No idea why. I don't magnetize my Grey Knights. I don't care. Like, the thing is, I'm really picking between 3 weapon options for most of them, which is just their melee weapon options. So yeah, I don't care.
That's all I'm going to do is melee options, and then I'll do 30. I'll do the backpacks, so you can change between Inceptors and Strike Marines, but
Interceptors.
Everyone
does that. Like, I've actually been amused by how often folks are like, oh, they're Inceptors. And I just let it pass just because Inceptors have been a huge bane for so long of the whole meta that I'm just like, whatever. Like, I know what they mean. I don't care. But it's pretty funny. I thought about doing the backpacks too, but the army that I bought previously, they didn't do any of their backpacks. And they all have like this weird conglomeration of weapons. I don't know if they were like trying to do a crusade or like a narrative style where like each dude has their own style weapon that they fight with. But for me, it's been like I'm trying to round out those squads, and then I'm trying to like make the new squads, and so it's a logistical nightmare is what I am trying to say. It might actually been better if I magnetized them, now that I think about it.
Grey Knights are one of they're actually the only Imperial army that I don't own. So
really, if if I'm honest with you, if I were to make a new Imperial army right now, I would run out and buy a whole bunch of Knights, just because they're cool models. They're huge, which I don't have a lot of huge models. Like, I've got flyers and they're big, but like I don't have like hulking, enormous models. I've got probably 4,500 points of Deathwatch by now, and almost 4,000 of Grey Knights. So I don't need like Imperial fists, Like, I've got a bunch of Marines. So Knights why not buy something super cool like Knights, right?
And they're actually really fun to paint. Like,
yeah,
I actually really enjoy painting my Knights. I normally hate painting. I normally am the guy who paints just so I can play with my toys at a tournament. Like, I don't paint because I actually like doing it. But Knights are actually really enjoyable to paint.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. They're so different from every other army that even though I would still be buying an Imperial army, which my other ones are. Oh, and I've got 1,000 points of like sisters, but that's a hole I just don't want to fall down right now. I just can't bring myself to actually do it. Like, I'm a terrible painter, and the models are so small.
Yep.
Like, with these little embellishments, and to top off the fact that I'm not a good painter, I'm not a patient painter either, which probably ties in to the first part. But like, Grey Knights are great. You prime, base coat, you wash them, do like a highlight, some gold, you do the weapons, done. It's like 6 steps, 7 steps.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So everyone paints their Grey Knights. They paint silver Grey Knights, and then they paint the swords all kinds of cool colors, right?
Mm.
So I'm gonna paint my Grey Knights neon orange, and then paint the swords silver.
I don't know if I can like that or not. Like part of me, the trolley part of me wants to like salute you, sir, and say great job, but then the other part of me is like, but why? They're not that hard to paint in the first place. Like, why don't you just paint them the way everyone else does, you weirdo?
Not fun. Like, I don't know.
That's fair.
I've got I call it games. It's like Light Games Workshop contrast paint, but it's a paint that I mix up that I paint all my power armor in.
Oh, okay.
And it's literally you just zenithal highlight and spray this crap over it, and your power armor is done. Like you can paint.
Nice.
I can paint 100 power armor guys in 10 minutes.
Beautiful.
And ever since I discovered that, it's like, oh, I can paint all the Marines I want.
Well, if you ever want to give me some of them secrets later, please do, because I have an airbrush, and oh my god, my life has been enriched so much by buying a damned airbrush, because I can prime, base coat, and then I can even, in Grey Knights where you want like a really even wash anyway, I can wash everything and just like throw on a Queen album and I'm done by the end of the album, you know, like,
yeah,
I got 20 guys in an hour. It's great.
Yep, that's why I said that's why I'm gonna do that bright orange, because it'll look good in my contrast paint method. It's just gonna be super bright,
beautiful,
and then all swords, flat silver.
So my secret with the swords is they're obviously base coated silver. I then just paint them like a horrible, whatever blue I have effectively on the palette, I just go and I just paint the whole thing. So it might be like Thousand Suns blue or whatever. I wait for it to dry and then I just do Soulstone blue over the top. That's it. And it actually looks pretty, like, it's not amazing. It's not going to win a Golden Demon. It's not going to even win a local which looks best army, but like it gets it done and it looks okay. Like it's obvious that those are power swords. Like nobody needs to look too closely. But yeah, that's my wicked tip for all you Grey Knight players out there who don't give a shit and already paint things better than I do.
Yeah.
All right, so your fifth matchup is the dreaded, the awful, the horrible, the ugly, the Drukhari. How'd it go?
So this game was terrifying for me because the person playing this list, Junior, I can never pronounce his last name, but
yeah, I can't either. It's like it starts with a Y and has like 2 G's in it and an L, and just good luck.
He is a super good player who wins GTs all the time, and like he's one of these top level type players, right? Like the boogeyman player. Like if you're like, oh man, I'm going to a tournament and you see John Lennon, or you see, Nick Nadavati there or something. That's like this guy's up there. He's one of those type of guys.
Okay.
So I roll up to the table and I'm like, well, nice to meet you. He's like, man, of all the lists here, this is the one I don't want to play against. And I was like, oh, oh, well, I'm sorry. And he's a really great guy. We chat for a little while, and we both know the game's gonna be, cordial, fun game. And we roll to see who gets to pick sides, and I win the roll again and get the forest for my 4th of 5 games. After that, we deploy, and with the way it's the diagonal mission. Vital intelligence. I think
thank you. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
So with the diagonal map, you only have 1 rune in your corner, and there's a giant fire lane down the middle of the table because of the way the center runes are placed. So he hides 4 of his 6 raiders behind his 1 rune and has to leave 2 raiders and all of his hellions out in the open. Right? He does stick his hellions into a crater. Cool story. But I win the roll for first turn, and I just vaporize everything that's in the open. Both raiders, everything that's inside of them, and all 20 hellions on turn 1 are dead.
I would hope so. Look at that amount of firepower you have in those dreadnoughts. Like, if you didn't, I would be very surprised.
And after that, he's just like, man, now it's going to be like an uphill battle. And he still made it a game. You can see I only won like 68 to 40 something. So you can see the skill level of
Drukhari players, man. They're all that way.
With vital intelligence. So I killed everything off of one side, basically. So I held 3 objectives the entire game.
Okay.
And so it was him trying to keep me from scoring primaries every turn, just trying to throw something at one objective to keep me honest, basically.
But you have 10-man bricks on them, and then a huge blob of
I had one 10-man brick holding 2
Dreadnoughts
objectives.
On the other. Oh, just spread out between the two.
Because they're really close to each other on that map. So one 10-man is just holding 2 objectives.
That's a good point.
He just let me have those 2 the whole game. He didn't even try to go over there, just left them alone. But I mistakenly had reserved my company veterans, my servitors, and my suppressors in this matchup, trying to go for retrieve Octarius data.
Okay.
So he kept throwing one succubus or one archon or Drazahar at my one dreadnought that was holding my backfield objective.
Gross.
And making it so I was never getting the 15 for hold more. I would kill it every turn. It wouldn't do any damage, but it would just be there just to prevent me from scoring points until turn 3 actually, when I finally got my servitors back onto that objective to hold it. One of the cool things that happened in this match, though, so my Lightning Claw company veterans, I put in strategic reserves. On vital intelligence, your board edge is your long board edge. And there's one objective real close to your long board edge, and he had 5 incubi sitting on it. You can come off your own board edge in strategic reserve and be within 9 inches of your opponent, as long as you're within 1 inch of your board edge.
Man, the strategic reserve rules are so weird, but okay.
I only needed a 4-inch charge to make these incubi out of reserve with my 2 Lightning Claw company veterans, who proceeded to come in 4 inches away from these guys, walk up, kill 4 incubi with their Lightning Claws, not die, and then have the Clavex run away to morale.
Oh my god, I was going to say, and then it died to the last one on the next turn, but no, apparently ran away from morale. Nice. You scared the big, scary, tatted up, scarred up, dark elf thing. Nice. 4-inch charge, huh?
Yeah, because you can come in right off the board edge and be 1 inch. You have to be within 1 inch of your board edge.
Yeah, but what a weird. I thought strategic reserve straight up said you can't be within 9 inches of enemy models.
Unless you're coming in within 1 inch of your own table edge.
Oh, and because the long edge, which goes down to your opponent's side as well. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was like the one of the big turning points in the game, was that, and so I don't need to make a charge.
There's no way you practice that. You just kind of knew what that rule was in the back of your mind, and then saw it and took advantage of it.
Well,
you're like,
I was just sitting there staring at the table, like trying to figure out how to get these incubi off of the objective. And I'm like, well, this is my only play. And he's like, well, it's logical. Like, you shouldn't die back to me. You should kill 4 of me mathematically with your Lightning Claws.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't die in return. And then
so
and then we can test.
Those 2,
because I would have 1 and he would have 1. So
those 2 stupid units that you put Lightning Claws on, ended up being clutch.
Just because I had extra points, I was like, I'll throw some Lightning Claws on there.
That's hilarious.
Super. It wouldn't have swung the game. I would have still won the game.
Right.
But I would have scored 10 less points, and he would have scored 10 more points.
Yeah.
And I would have still won by 4 points or something.
I mean, 10 fewer points would have made it a lot closer.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that it wasn't a close game. It clearly was. Yeah. Man, that's great. And that's really all it came down to, is a clutch charge, and then you blew up. Oh man. See, I don't know. I don't know if it's games played at your level or not, but for me, if I could backtrack a whole game and backtrack it to the fact that I went second, which is something not really in your control. That's not fun. Right? Like, in a game design standpoint.
And
like,
I mean,
with your Imperial Knight game.
And I look at it this way. Again, we go back to the beginning. My list is built for this terrain.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
In a normal mission, Dark Eldar can hide their entire army on turn 1 on any map. Like in most tournaments you go to, a Dark Eldar can hide everything in their army on turn 1 to not be shot.
But not in vital
intelligence
with one obscuring
on this particular map on vital intelligence. It couldn't be done.
So you got lucky based on not only when you went first, but also based on the mission, based on the terrain, and based on your opponent who happened to be a Dark Eldar.
Yep.
It's a lot of layers.
Yeah, this was, like I said, I'm a good player, but I'm not a great player, and I just happened to have everything fall into place in the last game.
And I mean this next statement to not crap on you or your play in any way, is merely to put things into perspective for our viewers. But I think it was at ACO, Atlantic City Open, that Richard Siegler brought Tau, and he took him to like 4th place, I think. And it was because he built an anti-Drukhari list for that tournament, knowing what the terrain was going to be like, obviously knowing how to play Tau because he's Richard fucking Siegler and he's played Tau forever. But he then lucked out to play 4 Drukhari players in a row out of 5. Actually, it might not have been in a row, but out of 5, he played 4 Drukhari players with his anti-Drukhari list in an anti-Drukhari terrain setup and being Richard Siegler. So, like, you know, it didn't surprise me at all to see him play so well after he got those opponents. But you know, if he'd gotten like knights, it might have like, well, he wouldn't have gotten knights 3 times. But anyway, you know what I mean, right? Like, and that was pre-AdMech Codex as well. Like, he hasn't run that list since because he's playing AdMech, and he probably wouldn't run it even if he wasn't playing AdMech, because AdMech are so strong right now and probably pick that list to absolute pieces. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying actually supports what you're saying. We're like, based on your matchup and your list and your terrain, you know, you can have a good matchup that's already in your favor before you even roll the dice, or you can have a shitty one.
Yep.
Like, that was not a good matchup for the Drukhari. You had 6 Dreadnoughts ready to eat their raiders for breakfast. You had a suppressor squad out there that could have eaten one for breakfast by itself. And then he was given a situation where he could only deploy his raiders behind one piece of obscuring terrain based on the mission.
Yep.
And the terrain. So based on both the mission and the terrain. And that's like, it's not enough to make me feel bad about the Drukhari player because he's playing Drukhari. But like, you know, it's something to keep in mind.
Well, and like I said, it's playing a super top level player.
Yeah.
And like, I just felt honored to be in the game, right? Like, I'm just like happy to be there. I'm like, man, I feel so good being here right now. And
you're just like, wee.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, you pulled it out. Like, spoiler alert, guys, you won all 5 games.
Yeah, well, that's so a lot of people were talking crap on some of the frontline posts about me winning because I had lower battle points than the other 4 of the top 5 players.
And it's clearly because Deathwatch is broken or something?
No. So basically they're saying that I didn't win all my games handily, right? Like, I didn't go out and score the most points. Because there's that big thing going around with submarining right now.
Right.
Like, were you the lowest?
Is it Manny?
Battle?
Is it Manny that like started that whole thing, or at least brought it up, made it obvious?
And the big thing with this tournament was actually random. Like everyone who had one win was just randomly paired. It wasn't battle points paired every round. So,
which was a decision made directly to stop what happened with Manny.
Yeah. But there were still a lot of people like saying like, oh, you know, he won, but he barely squeaked by and all these things. And it's like, I still managed to win.
Right. Well, Evan, I do want to remind you, and you seem like a very smart man, that it is the internet. Yeah. And the internet in general is very reactive and stupid.
It's no, like I said, it's no sweat off my back. I still know at the end of the day that I'm a pretty good player. So I'm just one of those.
And did you have fun?
I had a great time because, like I said, I get to go hang out with all my friends down there, all the guys from the teams down there, and it's just nice to be part of a community. So
yeah, for sure. And that's one of the other like really strong things about Warhammer that I found in general is like, even when I've played random people in like a random, you know, LGS league or league, like, you know, I'm hosting these people in my garage and they're happy to be there. They're happy to lose. Like they're smoking and joking and they're throwing models on the table and they're explaining their army and like how long they've been playing and they're just having a great time. Like they don't care. And, you know, even when they won, even sometimes handily, like they're like, hey man, like you learned a lot about my army, can't wait to play you next time, right? And I feel the same way. Like, yeah, I learned a lot about your army and like how it plays and how I need to like pick it apart. It's never I so far, I know there are plenty of like stories out there, but I so far have never run into anybody that I wouldn't play again. And that's awesome because if you play League of Legends one time, you're gonna run into 7 other people you're never gonna want to play with again, and that's the whole rest of everybody else playing. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is an in-person game.
Yeah, and
right, like,
so
when's the last time you talk shit to a stranger to their face?
Yeah,
you're probably what, 6?
And
because
like,
you got hit, right?
The big thing with this game is there's only a few real communities of people that get drawn into this game that I've experienced. There's the super nerdy guys who this is cool to them and they enjoy it and then there's a lot of ex-military guys that I know that I play with that really enjoy this game because it brings them back to when they were serving and, you know, all the great things they did for the country. And, you know, they feel a connection to the game, the strategy, I guess. Right. And those are as far as I'm concerned, those are the 2 groups of people that I've ever really met that play 40K. I haven't met a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. There's definitely not, I don't know, it's a narrow demographic anyway. Right? Like, board games surged even before COVID. Like, board games just became very popular within the last few years, maybe the last 5 years, I'll say, maybe 6 years. Very, very common. Like, when I grew up, like, it was Game of Life, it was Monopoly, it was Sorry, and it was games like that. And there was basically nothing else for years. I'm 37 now. And then, like, just within the last few years, it's been like, there's these amazing board games out. I think it's all started with, like Settlers of Catan, and then there's, like, all these, you know, there's 100 other games that have spawned up out of there. And I think a lot of the reason why is because people subconsciously were digging that, like, in-person something that you don't get. And I'm an avid gamer. I game all the time. Love gaming. But like, you know, there's just something you get about sitting across the table from someone else, moving a piece around, and it can be from a board game or Warhammer, whatever, where like you invite someone over to your house and you're making them drinks, or they bring you a beer, or like somebody's, you know, barbecuing or whatever it is. Like there's a whole lot that goes into that social interaction. And I think that that's one of the strengths of Warhammer is like, not only are you stuck, if you will, with one opponent for hours potentially, you know, not every game is like your game against knights where it's over in turn one of the player that went first, right? So, you know, you get to have that interaction, and like maybe you get a friend out of it. Like you could legit end up with a friend for life out of that game that you never knew this guy, and the next thing you know, like, oh my god, he's hilarious and he's smart and we live close and he's a great player. I can't wait to play him again.
I know my two best friends are the two guys I play Warhammer with. I've known them for close to 20 years for both of them, and like I said, we've been playing for 20 years. That's, you know, they've become my best friends.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, I mean, I really do think that there is something there in that visceral, real life interaction, really, between two human fucking beings who have to now interact. And at first it's awkward and weird, just like every first interaction is. But then you like might play that guy again at the next tourney, and then you play him again and again and again. And even if you never become best friends and like you're not godfathers to each other's kids, like at least you know and respect and understand and like that guy, right? And that's huge. Like, you know, like you can be down on a 3-game losing streak going into game 4, and you walk up and you're like, oh, this guy, okay, he's hilarious, he's great, I'm gonna have a great time regardless. And that could like turn your whole event around. I don't know, there's a lot of this stuff that we don't like, can't be tracked in like 40k stat center that keeps us coming back, right? You know, yeah. And it's not just the depth of the tactics and how do you move like perfectly in the fight phase and all that stuff. There's way more to it than that. I think that's amazing, and that's a strength that isn't leveraged in discussions about 40k.
I would definitely agree.
So I do want, before we finish this all up, and I know we actually just passed the 3-hour mark, so if you want to tap out, you let me know.
It's almost my bedtime because I got to work in like 6 hours. So.
Oh shit. Okay. Okay. Well, really, really fast then. I did not mean to like. I didn't know. Oh, that's right. You actually told me what your hours were, and then I decided to ignore them.
You're good, man.
I guess.
You're good.
I just want to talk to you about secondary. So it sounds like you took Rod almost every game.
Yes.
How often did that give you max?
I want to say 3 of my 5 games I got 12.
And the other 3 you got 8?
2 I got 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a very interesting podcast. It's a little out of date now because it's based on the GT 2020 pack and not the GT 21 or GT 2021 pack. But there's a very interesting podcast by the normal blokes about what makes a good secondary. A lot of the information in there still works, even though the specific information about what is a good one and isn't doesn't. But effectively, if you can't score 8, don't take it, is the fastest way to explain that. If you score 8, you have a 50-50 chance. If you score 8 on every secondary, statistically, you have a 50-50 chance of actually winning your game. 50-50 isn't good enough, so you need to find ones that score you regularly 8 or more. Preferably more, obviously. So I'm not going to go into that much more. But so Rod, and then you took one more, probably Engage.
I took Stranglehold. I take Stranglehold a lot.
Not Engage, yeah.
Because I can normally vaporize somebody off of an objective pretty easily.
That's a good point.
Hold 3.
Okay.
So that's almost an auto take for me.
Yeah.
And then I always take Vital Intelligence. In Vital Intelligence, I always take Direct Assault in
Direct
whatever
Assault.
whatever mission that one is.
How do you make that one not suck? Because last time I took Direct Assault, I scored 0 points on it. But I took it as Grey Knights. I don't know if I just didn't have enough like durable units on the objectives or what.
Normally, I just turn 1, it ends up my Direct Assault being a kill team. Ends up on it, a 10-man brick. So I can get it for 1 turn with that. And then normally by turn 2, I can have my whole entire Dreadnought brick sitting on the middle. And if someone really wants to interact with all 6 Dreadnoughts and my characters, good luck with that.
All right, that's fair. Because, like, as Grey Knights, I don't have those resources. So,
yeah. So, because the way the buildings are set up, you can touch the buildings on either side of the middle and see through them. So, if someone's going to hide on one side, I just touch that building and shoot through that way. Someone's going to hide on the other side, I touch that one and shoot the other way.
Okay, I see. Makes sense. All right, and then the third one is entirely matchup.
Always Rod, Stranglehold, and then the mission one and any one that and those 2 in Vital Intelligence and Direct Assault, I take that one. And then other than that, it's normally a kill one. So against Knights, you take Titan Hunter because you're going to Titan Hunter.
15 points.
Against Grey Knights, I took no prisoners because I could get 8.
No prisoners or Abhor?
I took Abhor.
Abhor is our Warpcraft one, right?
No, Abhor is the kill Grey Knights one.
Right, it's kill Psychers, but I thought it was. Okay.
It's in the Warpcraft. It's in the Warpcraft one. So
right, yeah. Okay.
I took that and no prisoners against Grey Knights.
Yep, that's a strong choice. They're still Marines, so they still have lots of wounds.
Against speed-waaagh, you take kill vehicles because their whole entire list is vehicles.
Grind them down. Yep.
Against Space Wolves, I took kill vehicles because.
Okay. I mean, that's so what you're saying is what I generally hear from most top table players, where it's you build your list to do 2. Might be Engage, might be Psychic Ritual, it might be Oath of Moment, it might be, no Rod. Prisoners, it might be Rod, whatever, right? Like, and then you just pick whatever the third one is based on the matchup that you're on. It might be the map one. It might be Titan Hunter versus Knights. It might be or the Witch against Grey Knights.
And that's a big thing with the way my list is built. I give up 8 for no prisoners. I give up 9 for bring it down and 7 for assassinate.
So it's shitty for everybody.
Because no one's going to kill all 6 Dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
Like, never have I ever had that happen. No one's going to kill all my infantry. Because some of it's going to be hiding in the back. You're never going to get your 8 points there. You'll be lucky if you get 7. And no one ever kills both the characters because if you kill the characters, you've already won more anyway. So
yeah, because you've already you've lost enough Dreadnoughts that they're no longer doing Look Out, Sir. And, did you ever run into any? So when I interviewed Lou Rollins, he was really big into a Vindicare Eliminator. Kill team character assassination list, and it was specifically to stop those crazy synergies that happen. Like he would kill in Death Guard the Stenchvat character, and he'd probably go right after your your character in your captain in your list, and against Dark Angels, he was popping Apothecary right away. Did you ever run into anything like that? And how would you feel if you did?
If I had to play against something like that, I would just put my characters behind a wall and put all the Dreadnoughts in front of the wall. Because then you still have all your auras, you're still safe, you're still doing everything, and you're standing behind a wall.
But you can't, but now you've lost those units as a map control like
Correct.
asset. So they're now stuck. I mean, not to say that they're worthless. They still have long range shooting and stuff. But like now they can't go anywhere.
They're stuck for one turn until I vaporize that unit.
Mm.
And then they come out and do their thing. Or if my opponent's gonna hide that unit and only come out when I come out, I've already won the game anyway.
Okay. I'm just trying to think about like stack debuffs on eliminator group like teams actually makes them like kind of hard to kill, but then you're also firing well with the plasma, you're definitely getting them down to like a 3-up at least. Because you know they're in cover, so they're at a 2-up, and then they have camo cloaks, which brings them to a 1-up, and then you're gonna bring them to -4, so now they're at a 4-up, 5-up.
The Volkite says,
and the Volkite, yeah, doesn't care. Really.
I would just pick them as the target of the tome if they were out, so I could kill them with mortal wounds.
Okay. That's fair.
Right.
Yeah.
I would just be like, cool, I'm gonna reroll all my wounds.
They're enough of a threat though that you would actually pop tomes to kill 2 squads of eliminators.
If it meant my characters had to hide the whole game, yeah.
Okay. See, that's
the
like
tome,
exactly what I wanted to. I mean, not to be like, haha, gotcha, but you know, like that's a good tactical choice.
The tome is there to kill things I can't kill any
easily
other way,
by
or to
yourself.
kill what can kill me. Because if I can kill what can kill me, I win the game.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's a fair answer. Like, I don't know that I've seen Lou or any assassinate like specific builds do exceptionally well in any meta lately anyway. I'm just curious. Because sometimes, like you say, there are like tilt lists, right? Which, you know, if you're playing Dark Angels and you're doing the blob of the unkillable inner circle Deathwatch Terminator or Death Wing Terminators, right? But to do that, you have to be backed up by an apothecary and their HQ, whose name escapes me right now. Ezekiel or whatever, Azrael. Right? If you can kill the apothecary one turn and Azrael the next turn, like their brick, like yeah, it still gets transhuman, but it's not really that scary anymore. Right? So I don't know. I'm always kind of thinking about those off meta choices. But anyway, Evan, it's been great. It's been 3 hours and 10 minutes now. This is my second longest interview ever. If I'm honest with you, it's my longest interview ever in one sitting, because the only one to beat you was Denise Liana Gama, and it was because we did a twofer for 2 hours each. So you are a champion, sir, and not just because you won your GT, but because you sat here for 3 hours like a damn dork and talked to me about 40K.
Well, that's the game I love, so
yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Totally dig it.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Hopefully we'll meet someday at a tournament.
I mean, it's an hour and a half drive for you. It's an hour and a half flight for me, and my family already lives there. So I think you and I have a pretty good chance of you whipping the shit out of me in some tournament in the next year or so. So,
and I try to hit all the big ones. I try to hit SoCal and LVO and all those big ones for Frontline. So,
hell yeah, man. I definitely want to do. I don't think I'll do LVO 2022 because it's in like February, but I might do 2023. So,
all right, sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.